Can you find me? Yeah, can you find me? Yeah, can you find me? Oh, I'm surrounded, yeah, can you find me? Yeah, can you find me? Yeah, can you find me? Oh, I'm surrounded, yeah. Oh man, it's got the incest rolling right now.
100%.
That's what's up.
100%. The vibes is always right.
There you go, man.
Bless. What's the name of your podcast?
This is a conversation.
It's the conversation?
Isn't that crazy that no one took that?
No.
It's called This Is a Conversation.
Oh, this is the conversation.
That's what it's called. It's
okay,
literally
okay,
called
okay,
This
okay.
Is a Conversation.
Okay, I got it. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, I like it.
I know. I was very surprised that it was like available.
Yeah.
Because it's been a year since podcast's been rolling out.
It's hard to find a good name. Everything is like taken, you know.
Alhamdulillah.
That means it was meant to be.
Alhamdulillah. I'm very thankful. I have a good track record with just like solid name picks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's been one of my ups for.
Same with me. The funny thing is, most people give me my names. It just happens through my journey.
Yeah, that's fly.
Like I didn't even come up with Hindzsight.
Okay, so then how did that come up then?
I was in Mexico. I was shooting for a band called Mia Moth. We had the same manager from Universal Records, and one of the producers. He's kind of like an OG. I look up to him in like a music sense. He's just like, in hindsight, everything is 2020, and I was like, I like that.
Easy,
you know. And I just took the in hindsight.
Easy.
And that's kind of when I shifted from like Mr. Hinds to just Hinds, and then in hindsight. Right.
I think I remember the Mr. Hinds era.
It was right in the beginning of my film journey. So like when he said that, I was like, because he just says like, everything you see things differently. I was like, thank you. Even Mr. Hinds I didn't come up with. Heatwave gave me that.
Oh, so
remember
you really
Heatwave, the rapper in the city?
You looked up to this brother.
Who?
This brother who gave you this name, this OG.
Yeah, just as he's much older. He's like 20 years older than me, right?
Yeah,
so I just have respect for elders anyways. And like when it comes to sound and music, his brain is insane.
That's incredible, man.
You know?
My mother came up with Before I Was One, the moniker that I use now.
Yeah.
Before I had, what's it called? I used Next Level. The names I came up with, like when I was making visuals in the city, my moniker was Next Level. That's when I was watching you do just in hindsight. Like hindsight would pop up at the end of all your visuals.
That's how I branded it.
Yeah. So at the what's it called? During I think 2014 till about when I went to Africa. I used Next Level, NXTLVL. But that's something I came up with in the... for me, a name was like, what is my intention for what I'm doing this thing in? So like Next Level was like, every piece has to be better than the last piece. Because I was like at the incline of like, you know, creative inspiration and implementation. And Before I Was One, the way that happened was my mom's and me was just talking one day, and then she was like, yeah, like as a baby you could speak before you were 1 year old.
You had like little words?
There's a video, man. She has a video of me when I was like...
So you love talking.
I love speaking.
You came out the womb a couple words.
There's a video, I have it, where I'm like 8 months old or something, and like I'm sitting in our living room and I'm having a babble conversation with my mother, like sitting like properly upright and just babbling. But my facial expressions is as if I'm like
you're
portraying.
intentionally saying something, but it's just coming out like babbling. Yeah.
So yeah,
that's
like
amazing.
The name thing is definitely very important, and it's like, you know, if that's not right, it don't really feel like the whole thing, everything under that umbrella is like gonna work. That last piece has to kind of like fit really nicely. That's kind of like how I...
Well, that's what represents it. That's on the surface, you know. That's the face of it. So I like it.
That's what's up, man.
That's a blessed name.
That's what's up. So I moved here in 2010. Now, I was already filming and everything like that. Like the way I started filming was, I remember walking into an Office Depot back when they had these back in like 2007.
I remember Office Depot.
And they had Adobe Premiere Elements 3. chilling. You know, when they came in the boxes. So I remember everybody wanted bikes and stuff like that, and then I was like, oh, I want this because it said on the label like you can make a movie and everything like that, right? And me back then I was so basic. When I started putting things on the timeline and you can just play it on the playback, I thought that was the film. That's how it all started. And this was maybe like 2-3 years, and then when I came and moved here, I linked up with some kids in high school that were doing the YouTube like a YouTube rap scene, because like YouTube rap, there's like back in the day they had like, especially like our the Filipinos was going crazy. There was a brother named Deep Pride. There was all these other artists from back in the day, and these kids here were very influenced by it.
Locally here in Vancouver.
Okay. In Langley specifically.
Okay, that's where you grew up, Langley.
That's where I grew up. Okay. Yeah, I graduated like grade 11 and yeah, I did grade 11 and 12 here.
Okay.
Yeah, I did grade 11 and 12. And they would just do it for fun, like for fun. But when I remember when I saw one of these kids recording in his living room, everything I saw back home was just what they were doing on like Rhapsody or Much Music or... So I was like, oh my God, you're doing like what these guys is really doing. Like for me, it clicked instantly like, oh no, you're doing like the thing. Like this is not just YouTube. You can actually do something with this.
Right.
So long story short, you know, that started the entire thing for the visual journey. And then I remember all it was just music based. So it was just filming for artists.
Music videos.
Yeah, music videos, just music videos. But you know, I always like storytelling. I knew that was like a thing, but still, everything I shot was like a typical music video. You're just like, you know, your main setup shot.
Was it usually like your vision, or kind of like the artist was like, hey, I want to do this?
It was pretty funny. We were young, so like the artist knew like. Yo, anytime they saw depth of field, because we had a T3i, I had a Canon T3i.
Oh, I started on the
yes.
T2i. I started on.
Word.
Yeah.
So anytime they saw the shot and just the depth of field and how it looked, they loved it. I mean, everyone was at the infancy stage, right? But for me, it was a feeling. And one thing I really liked when I was editing, at this point, I was editing with like Premiere at this point, you know, because it moves up. And then the timing of my cuts was really good, right? And all my references was like, you know, stuff like that. I started off doing all these videos for free.
Yep, that's what I did too.
Yeah, and it was just like off the love though. I didn't.
You just wanted the opportunity to make it, right? Like you just wanted to create something.
Yeah, it was like the fun thing to like a lot of like if like for some folks, if it was like being out with their friends on the weekends, our thing was like, oh, we scheduled a shoot.
Yeah.
Let's kick it with the homies.
Yeah,
you know
let's make something.
Let's make something. That was fun for us. We did comedy skits for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And like that channel went off a little bit. Like we accumulated a lot of views on that channel just off like just comedy, because it was really funny putting together just like things and watching them and laughing with your friends. It was very genuine like that. This was before anything happened with like, you know, a career or whatever like that. It was really off of the energy.
Yeah. That's how it should start, I think.
And that's how you should keep it too. I think after
it's
a while,
hard.
Yeah, it is hard because you know you keep coming up, but you do always kind of have it there, like something. It's like as long as I can see it in front of me, that first little spark, and if I can keep it in my sight, then like I kind of have a hold of it a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you have some sort of like sincerity in your pieces still.
100%.
Yeah. So now I'm filming in the city. Now, okay, you know, they kind of said, hey, this kid Isaac, he'll do it for $200. Okay, word, you know. And I was doing everything: filming, shooting, editing, outputting, marketing for 200. Because it's like for me, I was like, oh, that was a lot of money or something.
My first video, I made 100. I thought that was banging.
I thought I was balling
because I'm like, I didn't have to work 8 hours in the kitchen. I just did this on my own. I was like, amazing.
Yeah, I thought I was like, and then when you schedule like 2 in a week or something, you're
killing it. Yeah, you're killing it.
It's like, yo, come on, B, what's going on here?
Killing it.
You're playing with the idea like maybe I'll raise it 250, but then I'm like, I don't know, man, maybe they'll say no to me. Like, you know, you be thinking like this, right?
Yeah.
But then I remember I didn't really have. There wasn't really anybody else around. I thought I was like, I'm the goated one here. Like that's how you feel when you're like really on your flow. Like, I'm the one. I'm the goated one here.
Yeah.
Then I remember it was on Facebook or something, B.
Facebook was the thing back then.
And it was like a field with like these reeds or whatever, sunset, you know, hand with the joint like this. And then your logo popped up at the end, Hindzsight. And I was like, oh no. I said, yo, this brother's nice, yo.
Yeah. I actually know what you're talking about too.
Yeah, because that's an old school. That's an old school classic piece.
It is, yeah.
But when I saw your visual, it was the first time I saw another filmmaker locally who I said, oh no, this person has an actual, they have their individual eye, because I had enough like understanding with directing to know that every director has their eye. That's why like Spielberg, Tarantino, and Scorsese do not have similar pieces, even though they might use like similar equipment. You know how that thing goes.
Similar practices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have their own eye, and it
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
first
yeah.
time where I saw like, oh, this brother is conscious of what he's seeing while he's shooting, like. And that was really ill to me. And from there, when I went and did a little bit more research, I learned that you were doing it, already in the scene and everything like that. That was kind of like the reach for me. I'm like, all right, this is the plateau at this point. Because I was still filming with whatever I was filming with, but like you already had an individuality, and it wasn't a music video that I saw. It was just like a piece, like a visual piece.
Yeah, I didn't start with music videos. I just started with like I just called them little promos, just whatever, just a piece, just whatever came to my mind. But I was trying to promote myself as a music producer. That was the intention.
So, okay, so
usually all those pieces were like, the sound in it was my sound. And I was just trying to I used to say I paint music. So the visuals was me painting the music I made, using myself in the video to now brand myself in a new way. Because I was like, when I was just producing beats for rappers, I was like, yo, there's no way I'm going to blow up producing beats. Like, none of these rappers, I think, actually have global appeal or global potential. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? And then I shifted to video, and I was like, okay, maybe something with video. I don't know. I didn't have the whole full vision planned out, but I knew like I needed to add another component to it.
All right, man, backtrack with me, bro, because I've been very looking forward to this conversation. I've been looking forward to kicking it with you for a while, because since I saw that was like a while. That's almost like 8 years ago or something like that. This first visual.
No, it's longer than that.
Way longer than that.
Yeah,
eh?
It's 10 at least. It's 10 years.
That's amazing, B.
Yeah, it's 10 years.
So in the background, I've been watching just this kind of from there, but just always knowing, okay, this isn't. It was really refreshing to see people in the city that have like that it factor thing, that thing where it's like, okay, this is someone who, it doesn't matter where they are, they'll always have their own lane and their own thing, kind of thing. And that's the caliber I was always inspired by. Like I was always inspired by, Spielberg's my favorite because I just loved Jurassic Park growing up. But then like Ye, whenever Ye was doing nothing, he was just always in his own lane. And at a young age, I was very conscious that once an artist has that thing that is their own thing, you cannot be touched kind of like that.
Yeah.
So this was something that like was aimed right off the very rip for my creative process. But I want to backtrack with you just a bit. You grew up here in Vancouver.
Well, I was born in Alberta.
You're born in Alberta.
But technically I grew up here. I moved when I was 6.
Okay, word.
Richmond, then Burnaby. That's like all over. Kind of grew up in North Burnaby Mountain.
Okay,
That's
so
kind of like the root of it.
Okay, word.
And then Port Coquitlam in high school.
Okay, and you moved away with you just moved away because your parents want to come here.
My mom moved out here. She had a friend out here, and we first lived with them. It was like one of her best friends. Her daughter was like my best friend. And then when my mom got her foundation set up, we got our own little place, own little apartment by Metrotown. And then from there we moved to Burnaby Mountain. Was there from grade 2 to grade 7, and then from there we came to Poco. Just single mom, just hustling, just trying to elevate every couple of years. So there was a lot of moves. I went to 5 different schools by the time I was in grade 2.
Wow, man. 5
or 6 different schools by the time I was in grade 2.
What was the things that what was you doing for fun at that time?
Bike riding.
That's what's
Video
up.
games.
That's what's up. What games do you play?
Like the classics, just like on Nintendo and stuff. Like I played like Mario, James Bond, 007 or whatever it was. NBA, FIFA.
Easy.
Sonic on Sega.
Easy.
I even had that old school the bird shooting game. You had the little
Duck Hunt. Yeah, Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt was crazy. Yeah, Duck Hunt was crazy. I had that. Yeah, video games. I was basically an only child. I have siblings, but grew up like an only child. So it's just a lot of me, myself, and I time.
What about cousins? You had any cousins out here?
No, literally no family.
Wow.
It was me and my mom. So
wow.
I grew up just me and my mom until my stepdad came into the situation when I was in my early teens. But no cousins around, no grandparents around, no aunts around, no uncles around, no siblings around.
Wow. And what about friends though, like school friends and stuff? Because you kept moving all the time. So what? They would just kind of like they'd fickle out too.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I really had any like solid friend. I had one friend that was like my best friend because our moms were best friends.
That's what's up.
And they moved out here, and that was a girl. I always say that's why I've been able to have good friendships with women, because like my first friend was a girl, you know. So I never just saw girls as like the opposite sex.
Yes.
I saw them as like human beings.
I believe this when I was really young as well. I'm like, they always said guys and girls cannot be friends, but like, I was like, no, you absolutely can. It's just about how you kind of see it.
Yeah. Definitely, I feel like it gets a little trickier in your adulthood and whatever. Just sometimes people have ill will intentions, but like I just know how to move with respect and know how to cultivate just a friendship.
Yeah. You were able to see the person for who they were versus like all of this other. I feel like, no, that's
Because my first friend was a girl, but yeah, I would say once I hit grade 2, that's when we like settled our roots.
Yeah.
And that's the first place I felt like it was my home. Even if I go there now, it still feels like my childhood home. I was only there for 5 years, but like that's where I made my friends. That's where like I was, you know, a big part of me was developed grade 2 to grade 7 in Burnaby Mountain. And we just played in the woods because it's just forest there, you know? So we played in the woods, bike riding, trails, outside all day, every day. And back then it's different. Like, you know, my mom just let me go. She didn't even know where I was gone deep in the woods.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah.
And then but that was like you said, that was the points where you was really just exploring, being yourself and really having fun. You were just having fun.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of kids, right? Like the whole neighborhood is like one of those neighborhoods where lower income housing, and it's mainly meant for like families who need a little bit of support. So everybody there's families or single parents and just kids. So there's a lot of people my age. So either we're playing hockey, basketball, you know, whatever it is.
Now, so you're a kid growing up and you're doing these things. What were you? So was it mainly video games that you were watching with regards to what creative stuff?
I wasn't really creative as a kid.
Word.
I didn't know I was creative. I would say I had a shy bone, so I just didn't know how to explore it, and I just didn't have the tools to explore it, right? So I'm more focused on sports. Like played a lot of baseball. After baseball, I played basketball. In school, I did everything: track and field, volleyball. I played golf. You know, at one point I thought I was gonna go to the league. You know, like it's just basketball hoop dreams, right? I didn't feel like I had a creative muscle as a kid. I didn't explore that. I loved music.
I was about to say, were you listening to anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I love music because my dad was big on music. Just he played a lot of like dancehall, a lot of rap, hip hop. So I loved music. But still, that was like something I explored by myself. It's not something I like expressed. I wasn't the kid that was like confident just to like dance in front of everybody or sing in front of everybody. So it was just sports for me. I mainly focused on sports.
What did you do, like the whole like organize your iTunes with artworks and all that kind of stuff and the names and all that kind of stuff? Were you that kind of like?
Man, I was on
with the music.
I'm old. I started on Napster. Like I mean, I was illegally downloading. You know, I think it was like Tupac and stuff.
Yeah.
I went down the Tupac rabbit hole, and then I was like, he's still alive. And, you know, that's like the when I'm just getting used to the internet.
Funny, B.
Right? Because I remember a time without the internet, which is crazy. So I remember when I got the internet and I could just search things, and I'm discovering more music because I'm downloading it on Napster, pirating it, and then. Yeah, I think that's when I started making websites, playing more video games online. So I think I was exploring creativity then because I used to love making websites.
Yeah, there you go.
And when I first got on the computer, loved it. It became a problem for my parents. They're like, they put like a timer on the computer so it would kick me off after an hour.
Wow. Because
at that time it was scary. It's almost like putting your kid in front of the TV all day.
Yeah.
But I was being productive. I was like making websites. I was doing shit. I'm like, if you just left me to do what I was doing, I probably could have been like a little kid at 16 coding software or whatever, because I loved the internet when I discovered it. Wow. I loved the computer. But my parents was like, you got to get off 1 hour a day. And that was just too limiting. Like, it's not enough. It wasn't enough for what I wanted to do.
Yeah, you had more to express. What were you making websites on?
So there was this game I loved to play online. It was called Ants. And like you create like you can create your own tribes and like go to war with people. And I had like a really big poppin' tribe. So I was like leader, and I created like my own website for the for the tribe. I was also into wrestling back then, so I don't know. I used to create like WWF websites and stuff, and whatever I could just make. Hilarious. Like my interests, I was just making websites. But once they put that timer on, I just went back outside. Because I didn't have enough time. I played my game, and I have no time to make websites, so I stopped. And they had that timer on me for at least 2 good years, two years. So I was just outside playing basketball again.
Yeah, and so what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2005. 2006.
How much you remember about that time, graduation, and where life was and everything like that?
Um, Man, I hated high school.
Word.
Yeah,
Word.
I didn't like my school. Graduating, I was so happy to graduate. I was so happy just to be out of there. I didn't feel like I had community at my high school. Um, it was just a weird, like I grew up in Poco, like quote unquote, like the cool kids were like cowboys, you know, like they wore like cowboy hats and shit. You know, like
That's
we had,
interesting.
our school, we had 1,400 people in our school, and we had like 7 black kids in the whole school,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Hey.
know?
Hey.
And back then, you know, it's high school. People just try to test you. So like we really, like all the black kids like really like grouped up. And like obviously we had our own interests. We were into music, the culture, things
Word.
that are happening then, you know, basketball. And the rest of the school was into like different types of music and Jeeps and cowboys and hockey, and that wasn't my vibe. So I just didn't like my actual school. I actually had more community in Vancouver. Like I go to Bonzer, I go to Kitsilano and play basketball, go to Hoop It Up. So I had more community in other schools. But in my own high school, I was ready to be done with it in 2005.
So it was more so the people rather than the actual system itself. Yeah,
And
for sure.
I didn't like school either. I didn't like the topics. I hated biology. I hated chemistry. I didn't like what I was learning.
What was your grades? Your C average?
You know what it was? Grade 9, 10, and 11, I did so well and I stacked so many credits that I was ahead of the game. And then grade 12, I just like barely stopped. I barely went to school. But because I already had so many credits, like I already graduated.
Oh, that's sick though.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was like a B student.
Oh, that's
But,
fire.
yeah, but grade 12, I dropped. I was like C.
Yeah, you were done.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
clocked out. You know, I clocked out. What actually happened was I injured myself in track and field. Like my muscles, I don't even know what the injury is called, but my muscles pulled my bone out, like my pelvic. And sports was done for me. Mm-hmm. And I thought, my plan was just to play sports and maybe get like some type of, go to university or college playing sports. Mm-hmm. So when I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that anymore, I got lost. You know, I was
Word.
like, I don't know what to do anymore. And that's when I just like started smoking weed, taking vacations in like grade 12, like just doing whatever. I only had like 2 classes a day as well. So that's when I got just like more into like rap, and like all my homies were like rapping and they were making beats. And I was just the one that was just like observe,
Yeah.
right? I just observed them. I just go to the studio with them and just observe until I made the decision. Okay, I'm gonna do this too.
Yeah. That's similar to my story too. I watched these guys record, shoot, edit, open Adobe. They're using Adobe sound, the sound program. I forget what it's called. Adobe Audition. They're using Audition, and it was just interesting, man. It's interesting. So that's.
I used to love it. I used to love going to the studio and just watching them. But in my mind, I had ideas, but like I said, I had a shy bone, so I didn't know how to express those ideas in the studio.
Do you remember the first thing where you're like, "Yo, let me"? Did you holler at them or did you do it by yourself? Like you're.
No, I do everything by myself first.
You
know,
just like, hey, yo, give me that, yo, hand me that machine beat.
Yeah, no, I'm weird like that. I do everything by myself. You know, even the first time I smoked weed, I did it by myself.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Yo.
the first time I even tried alcohol, I did it by myself. I was just like,
Wow, man, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
very different because you always, I mean, every
usually
9
like-
times out of 10, it's always like someone puts them on.
well, all my friends were pressuring me through high school to do that stuff, and I never would.
That happens here with everybody.
You know,
yeah.
they tried to pressure me, but I was like, yo, I didn't like the idea
Yeah.
of like not being in control of my energy. So I was like, let me see what this is in my privacy, in my own comfort, to test it out if I like it or not. And then when I smoked weed, I was like, hey, kind of opened up my creativity, to be honest. I don't smoke no more, but back then it kind of had a little purpose.
And when, we'll dive into this a little bit, I guess. When you tapped into that, where was Bob Marley at in your life at this point?
I've always listened to Bob because my mom actually, oddly enough, listened to a lot of Bob, right? So she played a lot of Bob in the car. My dad listened to more like Bounty Killer, Beanie Man,
Word.
like the dance hall.
Word.
Not really like the roots reggae. Like he
Yeah.
was like the dance hall. He used to bring me to dance halls as a kid. But Bob was always kind of like in my life one of my favorite artists. I just, you know, always loved the positive message. But when I was making music, it wasn't really necessarily like Bob Marley's music that was inspiring me to make beats. Like at the time, it was whatever I was tapped into the culture, right? You know, a lot of Dipset.
That's
So,
what's up. That's hard. I didn't know that.
yeah, just sample based, like sampling. When I got an MPC, it changed the game for me.
That's what's up.
Like first,
man.
I started on Reason, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But then I got an MPC, and I was like, it just actually changed my production. Like I just
Word.
went from like, yo, this guy's making beats to like, yo, he's making shit.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
I love sampling. And I was just starting to chop samples up, soul shit up, and then I found like chopping like sound effects up and just making my own weird sounds, and then people started to pay attention.
Yo, Dipset is fire. What else did you just any Rockefeller era back then?
Yeah, Rockefeller, the whole
Yeah.
Rockefeller, Jay-Z, Beanie Seagal. And then like the whole Atlanta scene came up. So like that whole like crunk sound was really hot. So I started like tapping with some of those synths and stuff. At first when I started making beats, like everyone that I used to go to the studio with was kind of like, you know, kind of playing me like, oh, he think he about to do something. But then I'm the type of person, I just zoom past everybody. Yeah, I learn quick and I'm gonna zoom right past you.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? I did it with sound, I did it with video, I do it with everything that I do. And at the beginning, people always play me. They always punk me, you know? And then I'm like, all right, that's why I do things by myself. I get into the basement and just spend more hours doing it.
Yeah, you didn't let that get you. You knew at that moment. It's almost as if you knew. Like as soon as that one thing came, you're like, all right, B.
Yeah,
It's easy at this point.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go, mashallah. That's amazing.
hmm
Okay, so now, when did you get your first job? After you graduated or during high school?
When I get my what?
Your first job.
Like actual, just like working?
Actual working.
Nah, no,
like
I was
clocked-
working in high school.
You was working in high
mom,
school, eh?
My mom told me at 15, go get a job.
She shouts the moms, man.
Yeah, so I started working at 16. Right when I turned 16, I worked at McDonald's. And then I also worked,
Yo, classic.
worked at McDonald's.
Hey.
And I also worked at Silver City. So I worked at McDonald's during the week and Silver City on the weekends.
Which one you liked more?
I like Silver City because like all I would do is walk around and just check the movie theaters.
Word.
Right? And
Were you the guy that walked inside the theaters while the movie was playing and you hit that low key?
Yeah. yeah. But I was really working a lot, man. I worked every day because I wanted money. You know,
Word.
I wanted money. So I worked at McDonald's a lot. Then I'd go weekends, work Silver City. I wasn't into partying, you know.
Yeah,
I didn't do the parties. I didn't do the drinking. So I worked instead. So
Yeah.
I said, bro, by the time I was 20, I had like 20 different jobs.
Yeah, I was gonna run through these because my whole thing is blue collar since like 2013
Yeah.
all the way till even right now. Like I'm just actually this. I'm very confident that this job after I'm done when I fly out, it's gonna be my last job, like my last job. Like from here on out, it's gonna be like self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I knew I was gonna be okay financially when I started to do my creative stuff, but then when everything started to change, and I'm jumping way ahead, but when everything started to like really become about, nah, this isn't really it, I went through this huge stump. Like, I met my wife and I didn't have no. I remember I was on the phone with her before because Islamically the way you do it is like we don't do dating or nothing like that, so it's all about intention and where you want to go. So I remember you got to keep it real with these sisters. So I remember I told her, I was like, yeah, listen, I ain't really got no job. Like,
Right.
I ain't got no job, but I ain't gonna front. Like, I'm in my folks' place, like, and I'm actually want to go study in Africa for like 6 years. So it's not really like a stay in one place kind of thing. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Before I met my wife, I think 3 sisters respectively declined. They're like, nah, I'm not. They was like, nah, like I'm cool.
Yeah.
And I respect. You got it,
Well,
right? You respect that.
you were
It's their
honest,
life.
they
B.
were honest.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
their life. B. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I
100%.
can't. Alhamdulillah, my wife was just like, that actually sounds really exciting that you want to go to Africa and do all those kind of things. And then she was always like, well, why don't we just stay at like your folks and why don't we just like hustle in the queue? And I was like, oh my God, dude, this is a real one for real. Because I always knew my like hustle. I know my hustle. That's why I could be honest, because I know my hustle. You know what I mean?
And she probably felt it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm very thankful for that, mashallah.
Right. She obviously had trust in you.
Yeah, man. So, you know,
it's your last. This is your last blue collar.
my brother, this is my last one. I can feel it, bro.
It's a beautiful transition.
I can feel it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful transition.
So when you said you had many jobs, it's just like that resonates because, you know, so many. I know for me, my work was always like the blue collar work was always the funding for all of the projects. Like that was just the jobs. Like the jobs are always the funding for all of the projects.
Yeah, I never cared about my jobs. It's just, you know, yeah, I needed money.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And like, but anytime I had like an opportunity and like my job wouldn't give me time off, I just quit the job and I'd go get a different one after.
Yeah, so
it's like my dream was always first.
I completely hear you. Yo, to me that was always a little bit scary, the way of that movie, but that's pretty ill that you was doing that. So when
I'm
you
a crazy person.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you stopped. I'm not gonna say you crazy. I was saying when you stopped.
I am a crazy
when you
person.
stopped feeling this work, like, was that just like a rebellious type of energy that you had? Like, what was that? Because that's so confident to be like, you know what? I'm not coming to work anymore. I can never do that.
I'm very confident in uncertainty. Like I always say, uncertainty to me is a gift. I think there's a lot of opportunity in it if you have faith.
Interesting.
And I just never. I was always like, you know what? There's something I'm doing. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't explain it to people, right? Like, how do you explain something that's never been done before? I just can feel it, right? So I can't fully manifest it for like my parents or anyone around me. So like, I just had to continue to do what I feel is right. And if there was a job in my way, and like, let's say I had like an opportunity just to even go like, when I was producing for some artists, maybe there was a tour and I got to go on the tour and DJ the tour. Or I used to actually, one of my artists, I was like the hype man with him. So I was like on stage with him.
There you
so
go.
like, you know, I was just doing whatever, trying anything, you know?
Yeah.
And if my job wouldn't give me those 4 days off, I was like, I guess I quit. And then I'm going to go do this. And when I get back, find another hustle.
That's real.
You know, because all of these were just a means to survival until something clicks, which is obviously reckless.
Yeah, I was about to say,
It's
like,
reckless.
when you think back about it now, yeah.
I wouldn't change it because it's like, it's given me the ability just to like deal with pressure really well.
Yeah.
You know, zones of uncertainty. I'm just like, I know how to operate. I don't really freak out. Like when the pandemic hit, we can get into that later, but like when the pandemic hit and I lost everything, I was like, amazing. I love this space.
Amazing.
I love these spaces. I know what I do in these spaces.
Amazing, bro. Yeah, you're familiar with it.
Yeah, by the time I was 21, I had about 21 different jobs.
See, and I don't knock you for that only because, you know, at that time you were still moving generally off of your heart, like for real. Like you was really moving how you really felt at that time. So that's why there's no regret in any of that.
Yeah, and then I learned to just find jobs that were flexible, right? So I remember I found one job where I was just cleaning windows, like on like they building like townhouse units and stuff or houses. So during the construction, we go in there, clean the windows right before the house is ready. And it was basically, I worked with all Mexicans. All these Mexicans worked under the table.
Yeah.
Basically, the boss was like, when you want to work, you can work. When you don't, you don't. You know? So that was beautiful for me.
That worked out for you, yeah.
It meant I call him some days, I'm not coming today. I'm not coming for the next 3 days.
Easy.
I need money. I'm coming for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I learned to find flexible jobs.
That's really fun.
Instead of those like rigid 9-to-5 jobs. But I did everything. Like, I'm telling you, I sold vacuums.
You know what's so crazy about that? I worked for like a week at a job where they sold vacuums. You had to go door to door.
I did that for a week.
Yo, so you probably did the same thing I did,
Queen?
maybe.
Was it Filter Queen
I don't know if it was
vacuums?
Filter Queen, but yo, they made me go to doors, knock on them, and then I
did the same
but
thing.
I had to finesse them a bit.
I did too.
Yeah, you feel me?
Yes,
I had
the
to
same
go,
hustle.
I had to go give like, yo, you want a free Tide like laundry detergent? Oh my god, we did the same thing.
Same
B.
shit. And then you gotta go in there and sell them the vacuum, do a little demonstration.
That was the most snake-ish I've ever done in my life.
But if you sell one, you kind of get a crazy commission.
You do.
You get a crazy commission.
I couldn't do it, bro.
I didn't have the spirit for it either.
Neither did I. I went in and the one guy, my boss said, yo, that's amazing. The brother that was running it, first of all, I wasn't really feeling his energy off rip like that anyways. Because he was just way too excited about selling vacuums. And I was like, I don't really knock the fact that it's that, but like there's something was a little bit off. And then once he told me how he does it, I was like, nah, B, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing like this, bro. I feel like knocking door to door, like
the guys who were doing it were like sometimes bringing home like $5K in a week.
They were,
like,
but
they have like this personality,
bro.
for it.
It was too corporate, too weird. Yeah. Like it was like I remember one brother was like, he's like, you could be exactly like Brett here or whatever the brother's name was, and then that brother came in, he was like, yeah, man, you know, I go like door to door, man, I sell like this much, and I'm like, hey man, I was like, hey man, listen, I don't know, man,
I lasted like 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because I'm like spending money on gas, going. They're sending me to houses, like old ladies' houses and stuff. I'm like, I can't do this.
Like, come on, I cannot go inside.
But that was my reach. I just did everything. If I needed a buck, I'd go find a job. Yeah. Have my resume, fake the resume, because there's no consistency on my resume.
we always hustle the references. All my homies are my references. We just gas each other up like crazy.
I've been the reference for so many people. Still to this day, some people use me as a reference.
Yo, bro, I'll never forget that vacuum job. I remember I had a real moment when I was walking to like down the neighborhoods, knocking on the doors, and I was like, I think this is no, I gotta change some things here. This was during a time where I actually got first time I got fired from a job. I got fired from a job off of the way one of our clients didn't like the way that our energy was. Like I worked for a tile restoration, like yeah, it was like a tile restoration thing with all the stonework and all that stuff, right?
I've done that too.
But they've that was a job I had for a long time. I think I did that one for like 2 years or something like that. And then and it was on and off, kind of like what you're saying. You know, it was like, okay, hey, come here. But one of their clients was always in Whistler, and it was at these very nice hotels and everything like that. One of the guys that I guess he just did not like the way that like we looked, our energy, or we were young, we were too hyped, like we're in these expensive rooms and hotels. I don't think he was really feeling like that. So he told my boss like, hey, listen, I don't really want these guys working here. This was a big client for my boss. So he's like, hey, listen, I can't have you come do this thing. But then they just never called me back. That messed me up. I ain't gonna front, that messed me up. It was it messed me up because that job really helped. It was kind of like what you're talking about, flexibility.
Right.
Before
it was a good situation.
Good situation. The money was right. You know what I mean? They'd pay you nice, and they'd pay you a little bit more sometimes. You know what I mean? And it was just really good to know like I have flexibility. This was around the time where the video work was going really well. And before this, I kind of understand what you were talking about with regards to leaving work. I remember I worked at this one metal shop, and they would always let me take days off if I had to go do filming or something. But then one opportunity came up where we had an opportunity to go to LA, first time to go to LA. And then I remember the head guy at that place was like, yeah, no, man, we can't let you do that, bro. He's like, and then he tried to play it a little bit. He's like, yeah, you can either stay here or you can go to LA. It's up to you. I was like, what do you think I'm choosing, bro? Like,
Wow.
what are we doing out here? I remember they were really surprised. I remember they had like 3 bosses in the room, and I'm like, okay, well then, yeah, I have to go.
Yeah.
And they were surprised with that kind of stuff. It's funny, but to us, it's so regular to feel this way about things. You know what I mean? 20 jobs. So out of all of that stuff, blue collar and retail, what was your give me some of the most like memorable.
My favorite jobs?
Yeah, your favorite ones out of all that run.
My favorite one was actually I used to just deliver paint to like auto body shops. So in the morning I go to the paint shop, they load me up, and for 6 to 8 hours I'm just on the road. So I'm start in Langley and then wherever. And I love that job because I'm just by myself all day.
Yeah.
I have my own time.
Word.
I can listen to my music.
Word.
I can talk to people on the phone.
Yeah.
And if I finish early, I just went home. They also gave me a vehicle. I lost that job because I got a ticket in my own car, and that's when I had an N. You know, when you have an N, you get one ticket.
Yeah.
They take it.
Yeah, they finesse you.
They just take your license.
Yeah, man.
So I was like, I lost that job. I love jobs where I could have my own space and my own time. My last job was in a kitchen, and I just hated the kitchen.
What were you doing in the kitchen?
Cooking.
Okay. So
I love cooking.
Yeah.
Like at one point when I was young, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a chef.
Word.
Right? Because I do love cooking.
Yeah.
I think it's very creative, but I hate chef culture. They want you to, they be yelling in the kitchen. Yeah, they yell. They want you to yell too. They'd be like, yo, I need onions. And then I'll be like, no, you have to yell. Yes, chef. I'm like, why you let me yelling all day?
Yo,
Like,
you yelling is hilarious to just think about it. This is a calm dude, yo.
Bro, it's just,
you yelling at the top of your
it's
lungs.
not even necessary. Like, it won't even be busy. They just want you to be yelling. It make no sense.
Yeah, the culture's I've heard of different
Culture
stories
whack,
about
yeah. And like the culture
that
is
side of
like very hierarchy. So like they make sure to treat people at the bottom like shit. It's like film industries like that.
Oh, dude.
Film industries like that. I worked in film as well. And they make sure to treat people at the bottom like shit. And it's almost like frat culture where you got to earn your ropes. I just don't like it.
That's a great segue, bro. Yeah, how was 3 months into me being in film school, I knew I couldn't do the industry. 3 months in. Imagine that. You know that tuitions is crazy.
Yeah.
Those tuitions is crazy. 3 months in, I'll never forget. I was in my director's class, and we're all watching. And this is a Vancouver Film School, so it was the time of my life as far as growth wise was beautiful. I would take the 501 to Surrey Central all the way to Waterfront. I went to the Tim Hortons right outside that used to be there, and I remember I was so consistent that they'd have my tea ready actually in the mornings because I used to come in all the time, and it was the illest just walking in the very front, and everyone is just a regular student. But 3 months in, like, so as far as growth and experience, and it's the first time I've ever seen anything like this. Like, I was in high school. I graduated 2011. School started 2012. I moved here in 2010. So very quickly. So I'm experiencing downtown. I'm experiencing the transit system. 3 months, and I knew what I wanted to do. I did post grad because I just wanted my parents to be happy that I was doing something. Yeah, this was VFS.
Okay.
I wanted my parents to just be like, he's doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of really why I did it.
Yeah.
I didn't really do it because I wanted to, like, I don't know. But I knew I liked film, so I'm like, let me do something with film. Easy. I was like, that helps me and it, makes them happy. All right, cool, let's do that. 3 months in, I'm sitting in my director's class, and they're talking about how they created certain films and how it works. First AC talks to the director like this, and so on and so forth. And, like...
There's a whole hierarchy. So you never even went on set? Like a film set?
No, I did sets. I did set work too. I did set work. I did a lot. One of my hustles was...
I hated being on set.
Yo, listen. No, we're going to break this down. Oh, I did background work a lot too.
I used to do
I was
background
huge.
fire though.
Background was fun.
You just eat all day, chill with people, and talk.
So background was fun. I made some of the best, like, moments with the random people you met that you felt like you were family right at the very end was always background set work.
Background was cool. Yeah.
I have friends to this day I'm still connected with that I met strictly off of background work because it's such a fly energy, and you are separated from the
actors,
and just the what's it called, their dynamic, their movie making dynamic. Like you are literally can just go sit in that tent, get a little spot by the heater if it's winter time.
The heater. I remember.
You know what I mean? That was when I was hustling too. Like I'd have work I'd be doing. So you just felt so nice having your laptop or whatever, and I'm doing work. You know what I mean? Got the headphones on. People like, hey, what is this guy doing, man? Like, you look like, that's all right, man. You know what it is. But like I remember some of our tests in VFS were, okay, everyone got to play each role. You got to be like first AC, second AC. You get to be director. You get to be the producer. You get to be the editor. Everyone got to play a role. And I remember during those exams, they were like, you have to follow this procedure. But at this time, I already had successful stuff like that was getting like a couple thousand. I remember one video got like 10,000 views on YouTube. And I was like, the energy was hitting. And so I was like, who says this is the way you have to make it? Like, this is the set way to make your movies. I didn't really understand that, like, it's a language thing. Like, if everybody learns the language, you can communicate it. That's how you make your film, Yeah. I didn't really understand that part. I thought, like, what is this super, like, cookie cutter ABC 1, 2, 3, like, formulated, like, type thing? And that was a super turnoff. Just with regards to being such a free-flowing creative. But yeah, I remember I was sitting in class 3 months and I said, okay, man, this industry thing is not going to work out for me per se. But I champed it out. I stayed in the whole thing and I learned a lot about. It was good to know. It's like, because I know it now. It made looking at future films and things for today. It like opened up a little bit of a thing. Is there something that I follow? No. And yeah, set work was a little bit like, yeah, man, I didn't like the way that it was doing a couple things on there. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I didn't like the culture of set work. I didn't like, it's such a linear path. I think I don't like linear paths. I like unpaved roads. And like in the film world, you're starting, wherever you start, let's say you start as a key PA or as a PA, your next position is a key PA, then here, it's just like a very linear path. I just don't like that. And like the hours is crazy. I work long hours, but set life, you're doing 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's unhealthy. And I realized quick, I'm like, I never had a desire to make a movie, to be honest. Like my film desires were never like, oh, I'm going to make movies one day. Everyone would say that, like, oh, I can't wait to see a movie in Hindzsight. And I'm like, I don't even think I had that desire. For me, it's just like film and video was a vehicle. And I wasn't sure exactly what the destination was, but I'm like, this is the vehicle right now. It's going to bring me where I need to go. It's just another layer to tell my story.
I mean, it was, I'm talking about it like it was so, like, that's kind of, I feel like now when I think about it, like that was still a more blessed place to be energy wise too, rather than working at some of those jobs. You know what I mean? At least it was like on set. It was like still something to do, but
you can still soak up knowledge. And
yeah.
You can still learn in your craft at least. I'm thankful for every single one of the job I had, because every single one I can look back and be like, oh, that gave me like a tiny skill, or that taught me this. Like every single job I had did something for me, you know. So I have no regrets for my interesting journey there and all the blue collars.
No, we're definitely, no, and it has nothing to do with regret. My mind was just going towards how, I think in the moment you miss, I know for me, because I'm so tunnel vision, like I learned a long time after having a lot of tunnel vision, was the moment you open up those walls and you get to see the horizon, then you get a lot of the understanding of what's happening around you. But
Yeah.
definitely coming up, it was always like this, very straightforward. Okay, we're gonna make. Okay, music videos is the thing. I'm gonna stick with that. Let's go up on that.
Yeah.
Then I got tired of. I don't really like some of this music that these guys are making. I ain't gonna front. Like,
Yep.
I grew up on a lot of conscious, really not super not like Talib Kweli most type stuff, but like you had to be saying something and it had to be really real, bro. Like I really liked that. But of course you had the fun stuff. When you had your yay can't tell me nothing stuff, but then like give me the common my way home type stuff too. Give me that stuff. Give me the stuff you could talk to me about too. You know what I mean? Something that like was a benefit for you as well, so
As
you
a
could
listener.
ponder upon it, and not just something to waste time and get hyped up. Like I never, to this day, I'm not gonna lie, I do not at all like blend in with any like cloud culture type thing. For me, I don't know. For me, I was like this. It was never like something that
You cared about.
I didn't give myself to any of that. Was I working around a lot of it? Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. You at a certain point, that was like, that's just what it is. It's just the game at that point. You're just around people who, they kind of figured out, hey, I can kind of be a character. And as long as I can kind of craft it to be that way,
Yeah.
I can live through this character until I really become what I really want to be.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And I could always see through that like clear as day. And it was a huge turnoff. So it was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna start making the music. So that's what I started doing. I started making the music. And my homies was always around. They had all of this stuff. So I remember when I wrote my first verse. It was here in Maple Ridge. Actually, my homie lives not too far from here, and he let me spit the rough. And then it originally became the first visual that I directed. It was the first track that I spit on, and then we shot it in Robson Square. And alhamdulillah, like the way that God moves you in your journey and confirms things for you, even though back then I was not conscious at all about like, my relationship with God or anything like that at that point. But when I look back at it, it was like walkways and pathways. But I remember after I released the video, 2 days, like the same week, 2 random people in Vancouver, they're like, hey man, we saw that thing that you did. That thing was really nice. And I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. Big confirmations, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some local recognition.
So we kept going on that. So it's like, all those things where we're talking about, whether it's the blue collar work, whether it's the film stuff, all of that, like it just kind of put more into where you really wanted to walk, finding your footing. And especially when you start to realize like I really don't blend with too many things. You consider it, I still love a lot of the things out here and everything like that, and alhamdulillah, having an open mind is always very, very positive and very rewarding and very beneficial, because you learn not to judge and you learn to see everything for its benefit. You find the silver lining in it. But then you still really understand that would I stay in this space and like grow in it? Sometimes it's like, no, like I still like to be right here in my own little thing and come up like this, you know what I mean? All right, so we did all the work and stuff. So it sounds like you just fell into all this, bro. Like you as you found it, you were like just walking the path kind of thing.
Yeah.
So give me something that like you had precedented, like intention wise, like for real. Like now you're like, you know what, this is the thing I'm gonna do, and I want to do it like this, and I want this thing to come out like this.
Well, this video was a little bit intentional. When I stepped into it, I didn't know I had a gift for it. I just made something, and I was like, shit, that was a little too easy. Like it shouldn't have looked this good off the rip. And then after I made a couple of like my own pieces, that's when people started to hit me up. Hey, can I get one of those? I was like, sure. $100. made my first $100 off a video, and I was like, I've made money on my own. I'm never going back. And that's when I went all in. Within the first year of me making video, within that year, I was working with Universal Records in Toronto, shooting stuff for them. And then within that year, that's when I was out in LA with Kingston and then traveling. So like my video journey was just like start right away, get recognition.
Yo, man, listen, I ain't gonna front B. When I was in the city and I saw, yo, why is this brother by the Mayan pyramids right now? What is this brother doing?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, yo, B, listen, hold up, man. You
Right.
gotta realize one thing, bro. Being artist in the city, because listen, I was in the circles, bro, where folks knew what you was doing, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they wasn't telling you, but like, alhamdulillah, I'm very thankful. You know, our circle, we was champion the champions. I ain't gonna front.
Yeah.
But like, we was looking at some of these things. We're like, yo, this brother, how is this brother over? This brother's in the desert. How this brother get in the Sahara Desert, bro? Like, where is this man? Like, he's everywhere. Like, and we had no idea. Yo, real talk, we had no idea. Me more specific, because I was really keeping them. My friends, like, they knew and everything like that. But like, I was so like,
I mean, no one around me knew what I was doing.
yeah, I'm saying like,
'Cause
I
don't tell people what I'm doing. I just
yo,
I just do it, and
B,
then
I
like,
ain't
oh,
gonna
this
front,
guy's in Mexico right
listen, you know when you have those moments as a creative when like you got the thing and then, like you saw someone do that thing and then you had to I had to take a moment like, all right, man, let me really think about what I got here in front of me, because this brother's in the desert with a scarf, this wind is blowing right here, this bitch look crazy, this dude brother doing the slow-mo hands and everything like this.
I was in the
on some like Shabazz
desert.
Palaces J Electronica type.
Yeah, I was out there.
Yo, so okay,
early.
what was, bro, how did you get to these places? Was this client work? Was this your own stuff? Like,
Well,
what?
like I said, when I was kind of given the name in hindsight, I was in Mexico, and I was with the band I was shooting.
Okay.
Mia Moth, rest in peace. She passed away, and her producer Alan Roger, and we had the same manager, and our manager was from Universal Records. So he had this vision. He's like, yo, if I take my video guy that I just came across, and I take my band and I bring him to Mexico, he's like, he just had like a vision of what would we do bringing these like two creative, because we're polar opposites. This was like a rock alternative band, and then I'm me. What would happen out of this? And even I was like, yo, are they gonna vibe with me? Even they were like, is he gonna vibe with us? And we just met each other and like meshed.
Word.
We just became one, and we were vibing out there. And then he'd bring us to like, we went to like the desert, go to the mountains, go to the pyramids, and he had a vision, and I was like, nah, bro, your vision's not it. And like we have our own thing now, and we just took over and just did our own thing. I just shot like crazy, because anywhere I went, I was just like, I didn't travel as a kid.
Yeah.
I just didn't really have the opportunity. So everything's new to me. You know, I'm just like, oh my God, my eyes are like eating everything I see alive. So I just had to shoot and edit. Like I was intensely shoot, edit, put it back up. And I never told my homies, because I'll be completely honest, everybody hated on me, like around me. Like anything I started doing, they hated on me. Like there wasn't like genuine support there.
I'll be honest with you, Vancouver as a city in general, they just was not about this like supportive thing, especially in like the 2010 up area. Like, or maybe I don't even know about today. Today I see a lot of love, but
I think it's a lot better now.
it's a lot better now.
Way a lot better now,
It's a
because
lot
people
better
understand
now.
support is key. But back in our days, very competitive.
Brother, they was not saying nothing, but everyone was seeing everything. I promise
Yeah.
you, bro. Like, alhamdulillah, that's why I'm very thankful growing up in Kamloops. The majority, like I lived there till I was 16, and then inspiration. And the Kamloops was such a back then it was smaller town. It was like 20,000 people. Our high school was really small. It was like 400 students or something like that. And every time a new kid came, everybody loved the new kid, because it was like, oh, like it's a new person, you know?
Right, new
and
energy.
And the new kid became like, everybody knew the new kid very quickly, and like everyone always showed love. So this whole thing of like, when I moved to the city, it was the first time I was hit with this like, I'm like, oh my God, everything really is like how it is on Family Channel. People got like cliques, and there's like bullies and all these things like that. I was like, yo, where's this coming from? Like, it was the first time I remember when I sat in my high school at the lunchroom, and like kids was, because we had circles back in Kamloops too, but it was like you could go talk to anybody and everybody. Like you could sit down. It was a small town, you know what I mean? You could sit with everybody and anybody. There's no such thing where you cannot go hang out with this group and you can't go hang out with this group.
Right.
You could just walk around. Yes, we had our main clique.
Right.
But at any time, you could laugh with your entire class of like 30 kids. Like you talked with everybody there.
Right.
I'm sitting in this lunchroom in Langley, And I'm just like, nobody has said nothing to me since I've started this day. This is crazy. That messed me up. And then, you know, that carries over. So it's like, yeah, in the city, they was moving like this. But trust me, no, they was seeing all of it, bro.
Yeah, I know everybody was seeing it, but there's definitely, you know, there's a lot of competition back in the day. And I was competitive.
You think so? You think there was a lot of competition back in the day?
100%. Okay. I'm telling you, like, everyone was competing with each other. Especially, I'm a little bit older than you, so like everyone was competing. Like,
yeah, no, you're definitely in the class.
Like, I'm in the, I step in, like, other video dudes who are already doing their thing, seeing me. They're competing with me. I'm just like, my attitude back then was like, I'm going to crush every nigga in this city.
That's me too, though.
That's my attitude, like, I was like, because I came up in rap culture, bro, so that's what it was. And everyone I was around was rappers, so I was a part of a crew as well, right?
But you also felt like the work was that, like, every time you produce something, you looked around like, bro, who's like,
you're trying to eat food. And I was kind of like one of the first people in the city to like kind of leave and get some like American recognition, you know, and like people, because I never told people anything, so I just ended up in situations. Like when I ended up in LA, now I'm just in LA, and now I'm in like Puerto Rico, and now I'm around all these people, and people are like, how's he doing this? How's he getting there?
Were you conscious that your work, were you conscious at that time that like the work is speaking for me, not me?
Oh, 100%. I wasn't saying shit.
That's a fact.
You know, I knew my work was good. I was having a lot of fun making it. Yeah. And everything I made, each piece was getting better and better, drastically. So it made sense. And it was at the time when like DLSR cameras and like just content was like emerging. So like I tapped into something. I was able to make really beautiful pieces of video with just the T2i. Yo, and that blew Universal, like the guy at Universal Records. They're like, he's doing this with the T2i. And I'm just like this, just like me. A pair of rollerblades so I could get smooth shots. And they were mind blown. They're like, oh, this guy's shooting things that look higher budget with no budget.
With no budget. Yeah.
So that was like what I came in with, right? And I was coming, I'm coloring things differently. I'm just catching the right light. I don't even understand lighting. I don't even understand ISO. I don't understand aperture. I just grabbed it and made it. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
And that just elevated me very fast. It just gave me just a lot of opportunity. Like within, you know, first 4 years creating, nothing really happens. Just like a little local popularity, cool, whatever. A couple beat contests, I win. Start video, next thing I know, boom.
Yeah, your visual game was the precedent. I ain't going front. Like as far as what was happening in the city at that time, it was like HINDZ was the precedent. It's like that was the thing, and you have to now try to beat that. And that was always my thing. I'm like, I have to do whatever this supposed to do. But I understood that it wasn't what was on the screen. I understood that it was the actual identity of the person behind the visual. Because that's what it is. It's like, listen, anybody can capture clean frames. For example, like we know right now, beautiful visual of the snow falling outside the window right now. Beautiful, like, you know, soft light, you know. I mean, even look at this, look at the bottle right here. Even if I look through this bottle right here like this, like...
It's like magnified.
Yeah, magnified. You pull it like... And just holding that shot right there. Now, anybody can, like, frame that shot. But to capture the emotion, this is 100% by the individual who's... capturing the thing, the soul feeling aspect of it. Did you become conscious of you having that thing earlier in your work, or when did you start to become conscious of like, hey, when I put this thing like this, they really actually feel it like this?
No, I wasn't conscious of that. I just knew if something felt right or if it didn't feel right.
Word.
You know, like when I'm making it, I just could see, like even now to this day, like it's hard for me, my eyes, if something's not right, like it's hard me, like I hate white walls for some reason. Like I
really?
Yeah, or lighting really bothers me. Like if I go into certain stores and the lighting's bad, I have to leave because I'm like, I can't shop in this environment. Like it's just not correct.
You know? That's a different type of eye right there, bro.
My vision's 20/20. Like still.
I'm opposite of you. I love like all white interior and
I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Yeah, I can't stand it. It depends. It depends on the space. Like it depends on like the structure of the space. But like my eye could just find incorrections really fast. And it's also why back in the day, women loved shooting with me because I was able to catch all their flaws and insecurities. I understood. I could just pick them apart in the editing process that a lot of times a lot of dudes would miss. Because my eye just sees incorrections, or what I see as incorrections, very fast. So when I'm making something, there's just a feeling.
Incorrections like what? Like in the actual like technical side of it, or you mean in
no,
the actual
person? I didn't understand technicals. It's just the way it looked. I could feel it. Like
yeah,
I could
even if you didn't understand technical, you can still see something and say, "Nah, I don't like the way this looks."
yeah,
It's a feeling thing.
it's a feeling thing. It
So you
doesn't
mean
feel
by
right.
that, by insecurity?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm saying like, yeah, by something I know they're gonna be insecure. But let's say like there's like a little bit of a chub on their chin just because of the angle or their shoulder or something that someone else may think is a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
But I'm just finding that tiny thing that I know she's not gonna like this, even though the shot is the location, everything's perfect. And they're just like, man, you catch me in like a light I never see myself in.
Yeah.
And I just had that eye, and it's just a feeling, right? I still have it with sound too. Like I just know if I could listen to a song and know what's supposed to happen, or know what's gonna happen, or know what lyrics are about to come, and people are like, oh, you heard this song? I'm like, no. I just know, I could just feel it. And I know if something's off. It's just a feeling.
That happens with me when I see shots.
Yeah.
I can look at a shot and just know like that has the potential to do that thing that is beyond what it's done right now.
Yeah. So I knew that when I was making things, like, oh, if it felt right or didn't feel right. But I don't know how other people are perceiving my work, because you never get to experience your own work for the first time. You made it, right? Like if I make a video and you watch it, you get the blessing of viewing it as complete. This is the first time. I was there through the process. So I don't know how it feels to watch my own stuff. I'm there through every single step of the way. I've never watched my own stuff as a first-time viewer, so I don't know what people take. Even with my podcast, when people listen to my podcast, they're like, "Man, I don't know what it is." They're like, "I feel like I can like smell the room. I can feel like I could just feel you in the room." I don't know how you're perceiving it, because you get to experience it first glance for the first time. I don't get that viewpoint ever. Creators don't get that viewpoint of their own work.
When you finish making something, do you love watching it back or you don't watch it back?
If I love watching it back, I know it's amazing.
Yeah, you just made a hit for yourself.
Yeah, and
right?
that back in the day, of course. Like if I watch it back 10 times, it gets you that feeling. You're excited.
That's that feeling. That's what I'm talking about.
That's the feeling.
Feeling.
That's
the
how you know.
feeling. Yep. Yeah. When you love watching it and you don't care if nobody ever saw this, you just love.
I never had any doubt. Like even when I was creating my own personal content and like people were sleeping on it, I loved it. I wasn't like, oh, maybe I'm actually not good. I was like, no, they fucking sleeping on me. That's all it is. Because I'm like, I love what I'm doing. I know this is fire. It's just gonna take time for people to understand it.
Like you got joy out of life because you loved it, and it's like as long as I love it, I'm cool with whatever happens outside. One of my brothers told me something, just like really amazing. Way later on into my creative journey, but he was just saying that like, it's your baby the whole time you're making it and you have it, but the moment you give it out to the world, like it's not yours anymore. It's not yours anymore. But one thing that I was very conscious of was that if I really loved it right now, as I'm looking at it as the final export before it's on anything, the moment I put it out, it's like sometimes like 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, whatever I loved about it, you see that same reaction come right back through the other people's eyes. It's like your entire heart, whatever your opinion of it is, it's so funny how almost some of those same opinions come out of the hearts of the people who are viewing it as well. And then you get this communication where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm very conscious of, even when I'm shooting something right now, even before it goes into the editing room, this thing has the thing to give you that feeling and bring it out of a person.
Yeah, because your heart is in it.
Yeah.
So for me, the creation process was always like 90% intuition, 10% technical.
Hell yeah.
Just because I've never been a technical guy.
Yeah,
to be completely honest, I don't enjoy like reading instructions.
I to this day I don't work with lights. I don't work with like actual like lights. I love natural stuff.
I love natural lighting too.
However,
I was afraid of lighting though. That's what it was.
For me, I think, I don't know. I just love, I don't know.
Natural lighting is hard to beat, but you can't control the setting. That's all.
No, you can't. Like, so for example, like I know if you're gonna shoot like you talking to the camera, you're gonna have that white. Like you need that. And I understand this. I love soft diffuse light is like my.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's. But yeah, you're speaking on the nature of it, bro. You're speaking on like the most organic. How organic can we get it? But then also like a little bit of that crafting behind of it, just to bring out what more of a natural feeling to it.
Yeah, I think that's what's important, because even now, if you notice on the internet, everyone has the information to make an amazing video. Like I go on YouTube, I'm like, everyone has amazing quality now. People have amazing lighting, quality. Like you go, everything's like studio quality. So to me, it's still like the nature of it. It's the organic sense. It's that spirit you can put into something that's going to stand away from the rest. Because just good video quality, back then, good video quality was like, could separate you from the rest. But now it can't.
No, it doesn't.
Now it doesn't. Now it's actually just a norm.
Exactly. Back then, I remember there was a leveling system. You had the T3i, but then you figured out someone had the 5D Mark III. And you looked at the 5D Mark III and you was like, oh no, I gotta get on that. Now you got
But the people who could make the T2i look like it was a 5D were the ones when once they got the 5D made it look like it was a red camera.
And it's always like that, right? And then after the 5D Mark III, the Sony Alphas started to dominate.
That's where I went.
Yeah. And I stayed on Canon only because I couldn't afford the Sony A's. But I was very conscious that Sony A's is the one right now. Like if you can shoot Sony A and you have an eye, it's game over basically. Like you just leveled it up because for consumers, a lot of it is also just like the prettiness of it. That's why like if you look at like iPhone's marketing of any of their new video and photos, it's always just like what they're doing with the way it looks. You know what I mean? Even if technically it's not like that. Like for example, like my phone right now, the Sony Xperia 1 series is the best hardware camera phone on the entire market. And it's still one of the only phones with like an entire 4K sensor, 4K screen. It has like Sony Alpha hardware inside of it.
You have a Sony phone?
Yeah, my Sony phone.
Well, apparently iPhone just came out saying that they actually use Sony cameras in their phones.
See, there you go. So it's like my whole short film was shot on my cell phone. Like I did not use any professional camera. I just used my cell phone. I shot it all on my cell phone. The whole thing was shot on my phone.
Crazy. Which phone is that?
The Sony Xperia 1. I'll show you.
Oh, you show me that after.
Yeah. Sony, they specifically made this phone for filmmaking. They took not only Sony A stuff, but they took stuff from their Sony film cameras. They put software and hardware into this phone. And that's why I purchased it. It has Zeiss lenses. Built in our Zeiss lenses.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's fire. I might have to do that.
Built in our Zeiss. It's the best. It's a very niche phone. Like it's not marketed. You won't find it anywhere. But what you're speaking of is like some of that still plays into today. Like it's like, yes, the person who has the T2i can, if they make it that look good, it doesn't matter if you use the 5D Mark III. But there is still something very, very beautiful about having peace of mind of like, even if I have really bad filmmaking like capabilities, like I'm like, whatever, no matter what I'm capturing a 100 and like a full on 24 frame 4K with color graded like the sensor is understanding that this will be color graded. This is super nerdy at this one, but it's like just naturally off the rip on the raw aspect of it, you're capturing this. And for a filmmaker and for a visual shooter, just knowing the moment I throw this into what's that new DaVinci, the moment I throw this into DaVinci, or back then it was Premiere, the moment I throw this into Premiere and do that, But yeah, I shot the whole thing on my phone. I'll tell you a little bit of that story later on because now I'm really thankful we got into this visual piece about it, because I remember when we were having a conversation on your Discord when you're getting together with the peoples, you spoke about just how like you picked it up, you got into it, you loved it, and the works. Now we got into the work speaks for itself. It creates opportunities because people, they just love to be around quality pieces. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting that sound was still your first thing. It's still very interesting.
And sound, I think the reason why I was good at editing right away was because of sound.
Yeah, because you had rhythm.
Yeah, I had rhythm.
I'm
a rhythm-based editor. Still to this day, I'm a rhythm-based editor. And if you watch content now or anything on TikTok, it's not rhythm-based. It's just very choppy.
It's very choppy.
It's very to just grab your attention. But I love rhythm-based editing. That's soul editing to me.
Brother, when you watch the videos, and my video editing technique was the same. I would cut on the snare. I would cut on the kick. I would cut on even.
Right.
It was the
or even on like the 1/8 of it. After there's still a timing to it. There's a rhythm, and to me that's rhythm. Like that's the soul in that.
Yeah, it's not so. Yeah, exactly. It's not so ABC like, oh, you have to cut on the snare. It's like sometimes the snare would have a reverb, and it's like, let me cut it a little bit after that, and then it hits a feeling.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would spend like 5 minutes on if the cut was right by the smallest 1/4 increment. Do you know what I mean?
Like you could feel if the timing wasn't right. So that's back in the day. That's all it was, is the feeling, and that's what I mean. I'm like, it wasn't technical. I just knew like when it was supposed to switch.
That's what sets people apart.
Yeah.
That's why it's like it's like we have that conversation amongst our peers with regards to that in pop music. We're like, pop music technically, oh my god, you want all of the technical equipment they use for pop music, like with regards to like, but it will never ever beat like anything with a soul, like any soul, like soul emitted, recorded off of like, you know, your Apple. You can even record off the headphone, B.
Yeah.
If it hits right, it hits right. You feel me?
And it's timeless.
Come on, man. That's what that is.
Yeah.
All right, man. You went, and you know how. So this journey was very. You could say it's safe to say it's very introspective journey. The whole way through, eh?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Very introspective. Yeah. I mean, I lost my ways, you know, along the way, but it was necessary.
What you mean? What you mean you lost your ways along the way?
Well, I said like when I was doing video and, you know, you're just kind of like deep into the rap videos and then just the culture and the environments and the type of people you're around. I started to be like not resonate with it, especially when I was in Los Angeles. I'm like, is this really like where I want to build a new foundation? Is this like the type of people I want to be around? Is this the limelight I want to be in? And I was actually starting to see like people here ain't happy, yo. People here is miserable. They got big old chains. They got money. They're riding around in Benzes and stuff, but they're actually not even happy. That really shook me up. Because back then I'm just thinking like, yo, once you get there, like that's where the happiness is, kind of like, you know, you made it. But when I was around these people who like were quote unquote already made it, and I was just seeing so many flaws. We're all flawed people, but when I was just seeing like their lifestyles and everything and how like it didn't bring like a fruitfulness to their spirit, and they were like really just didn't even have healthy environments. I was like, yo, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And I stopped going to LA.
You like genuine energy. That's why you love your content, because if you were genuine in the process of making it. So when you watch it and it was genuine, you felt good. And not seeing genuinity outside in the real world with the rest of people, because that's been so far the common factor is like, you know, the turnoffs on that environment, whether it was people, you know what I mean, people, or just
yeah, and I'm shooting videos with like the songs are like rooted in drug culture, you know, the women are half naked, and then, you know, I have a daughter, and I literally asked myself, there's two different times. One moment I just asked myself, when my daughter's 10, am I going to be proud to show her what some of the things I'm making right now? Yeah, that's real. And I was like, no, that's super I don't even want her seeing it, right?
How old were you when you had your kid?
Like 2021.
I definitely want to get it. You know, we'll see how long this conversation goes. But fatherhood is something I definitely
another time was I was shooting this vlog for one of my boys. He's still like in the rap game. He's doing very well. And this vlog was like some of the ASAP dudes. And they were out here, and then like consisted of just a bunch of different things. Really cool like documentary vlog kind of style video I made. But one part in that video was my boy went to like London Drugs or something, and he loved lean.
Shout to London Drugs.
He loves lean, right? And he in the video he's like, let's go get. He went and got lean over the counter.
This is like way before like the kids got on it today. Like the more recent like promethazine. Fix up. This is like way.
This is back.
Well, lean been a thing in the Southern culture for a long time. Let's not get that. Let's not get that twisted.
Yeah, even in LA, but like out here, I think in Canada it wasn't like people weren't really on it as much. But like he showed in the video how to get lean over the counter. And when I made the video, they went back to the crib, made the lean, and then I was like, at the time it was all like whatever, fun and games. But when I edited this video, I was like, oh god, man, this is very influential.
This is like, very bad. Yeah.
This got ASAP in here, so it's got that like component. And then I'm like, if this comes out, man, I just taught like a nation how to go get drugged out. I'm like, and then I recognized, I'm like, man, this video thing, I was naturally good at it. It was a gift. It was given to me, and I'm using it for something else. And it really shocked my core. And then I quit. I quit, and I sold my camera. I quit. I gave it up.
So you gave it up on that, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. Around it was like it was a season of revelations around that.
I was about to say, yeah, it's a build up to where you got to today.
That was one of the last things I made, though. Yeah, for sure.
It was a build up into this.
It was a
right
season,
here.
you know, like a domino effect. Each thing was coming down, and then it wasn't feeling right, and then I was like, the last thing happened, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this.
What, you know what's so amazing about what you just said, bro? You went into it with a sound heart for why you love doing it. Then you got involved in it with regards to this work aspect of it, and then you slowly start to realize that the way that the world sees this type of thing versus how you see it, very, very different. And it's always like, for a lot of people, actually, this is why a lot of people sell out. What you just said is why a lot of people sell out, because they don't see any other way for them to do it, or sometimes they're really scared of doing it by themselves, or like saying no to particular things. So, like someone else in that position, they might have just not had that understanding. They would have put it out just because, they wouldn't have known, what to do by. And this is actually how a lot of people lose that thing. Some things you cannot. Some things you are just, it's just, you have to take that risk and you have to say no. Like, it doesn't matter what opportunity is here with regards to this life, like this image aspect of life, the actual feeling, genuine aspect of it, the way I feel inside when I see this thing, it does not feel right. And like, saying no to that is very brave, it's very courageous, it's very tough. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's
because you have to let go of your identity from what everyone knows you to be at that moment.
Very scary
and
thing.
At the time, I'm like doing cool things. I'm like, technically I'm popping. Like at the end of the day, like everyone sees me in a light.
That's what I'm saying. See, because it's really easy for you to be like, hey, what is it that you do? And you'd be like, yeah, I just did this. It's like just explaining those things once or twice, it already puts you in this like factor, you know what I mean? Like this cool factor. And not a lot of people, that's why it's really hard for them to let it go, is because that thing is the thing that's keeping them stable, even when when they try to go outside. It's like
their identity.
You can't look at like, I can't really face myself right now. So as long as I can say, hey, I shot a thing for this person, or hey, I did this thing, you know what I mean? Then it makes you feel like you can survive outside a little bit. And that's that's everyone's personal journey. So no, we commend you on that, bro, because that kind of stuff right there, that's tough for a lot of people to do, but you need people to move that way. So now you turn this thing, you shut this thing off. What year was this? Like,
man, this was like, to be honest, it was probably like 8 years ago. It was only a couple of years after I started doing music videos, to be honest. I shut it off a few years after. I was still filming other things, but like not really in the music industry.
When did I stop seeing you around? I'm trying to think of when I stopped seeing you like online as much. I remember like when I stopped seeing you online, but then I remember one time I ran into you at some sort of like convention or something like that, and you were just shooting with like a glide cam.
I was still making money through video sometimes. What happened was when I sold my camera, I took a job editing Indian weddings.
There you go. Hey.
So I just edited.
Yeah.
I really liked that job at the time because it was flexible. I could go in whenever I wanted. I just had to get my work done. Let's say he's like, every week you gotta get 2 weddings done. So come in whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me the freedom just to make a little bit of consistent money, not worry about, that next check, that next artist, that next bag, and put the camera down for a while. And then I started filming a little bit with them. So I started to film Indian weddings. And then that was like boot camp for film for me. It just taught me so much because I'm just in these like eventful settings, so much going on. And I just learned like a new style of like guerrilla filmmaking. It was actually it taught me a lot, And during that time, because I'd go into the office when no one was there. Like I'd go at like midnight and stuff because I just wanted to be alone. And that's when I started to listen to podcasts and like radio shows. And I started to fall in love with the relationship you can have with a podcast host because I just had the headphones on. And I'd be laughing. I'd be listening to like Charlemagne and Andrew Schultz back in the day.
Oh, the Brilliant Idiots.
Like when it first started.
Yeah.
And I would just be cracking up. And I thought it was so amazing how it felt like I was there with them. And then I had the thought like, yo, what if I did this? But it was just a thought, and I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, what would I even talk about? I don't even like my voice. But like, That's when like the seed or the idea was there.
Yeah.
And then I just continued to do what I was doing, just edit whatever, and started to pick up some more bags through like corporate jobs with filmmaking. Decided to get a camera again and just just work.
Yeah, it's kind of what you knew, so that you got back into it because
I got back into it because I'm like it was the best means for me to make money.
Yeah. Right.
I wasn't gonna go into like retail or something.
Yeah, you definitely wasn't about to go back to no job, right?
Like, wasn't going to go back to selling no vacuum. No, wasn't going back to selling no vacuum. And then, but at that time was when I was diving into my journey and just kind of like learning about myself. That's when I got very intentional about like self-discovery.
Yo, because you haven't mentioned anything about that first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this creative journey really teaches you a lot about yourself. Then you're faced with life, and then you're faced with yourself. So that's when you start to get really about into your. Because when I look at it from the outside looking in, my personal story was I got very turned off by how difficult it was to create, like, I guess I wanted to be very real with my content, but everything around at this time, and this is like 2000, this is like 2016 to 2019 at this point. We were hustling a lot. We were doing a lot of work. It was like me and like 5 other brothers, you know what I mean? And we're very all very close to this day. And we all did different facets. 2 of us were shooters, like film wise. Everybody else was musicians. And then one brother was our engineer, and he did everything for all of us. And we were always really, we always worked really hard together with everything. And the chase was like very, very fun because we had each other. Like it was very fun because we had one another. We like created our own studio space in our homie's basement, and you just walk in anytime and the homies is there, you know what I mean? But it was a very closed type thing. As the journey was continuing, it was like realizing the one positive thing about making music and writing lyrics down was that like it was very therapeutic, but I became very conscious of it like well after that. This was like a very big release, and speaking a lot of truth, speaking a lot of mind. And I don't know, I don't really understand like what I guess that would have opened up my heart a little bit more, but I was very turned off by how nobody wanted to be a leader anymore in culture. Like nobody wanted to be leaders anymore. Everybody just wanted to be there and gain all of the accolades or all of the things that you get from it and then bounce, or get all of the things that you get from it and then like just be that. Just be someone who has possession, and it was cool. It was cool. I mean, I still listened to all that kind of stuff. I still liked it, but it wasn't like, like I really only was like, okay, like who's doing it for me? It's like, it's only Kendrick is really doing that thing where it's like, this brother is really stepping into a space where it's like, you want to, like, I remember you mentioned something about building roads in Jamaica. It's like, who wants to do this? Like, this is really what it's about. Like, who?
I want to do that since I was 16.
That's what I'm saying. You feel me? It's like, I've always wanted to like create like change economy. Like if there was if there was a way to help out and re-infrastructure these communities and get the money flowing back and help these people with regards to their living, that was the point of why you had Shine. And that's actually a lot of the artists, like for example, like I brought up Bob because Bob had those foundations, Pac had those foundations, like more recent Nip had those foundations. But growing up as a youngin, there was a lot of talk. Like Jay would always talking about helping Marcy and bringing that neighborhood back up. For me, it was like, and Ludacris did a lot of this too. Actually, I remember Luda would always talk about, everything he did. I remember there was this mantra, like everything I do for my family and my community. And the A was so connected like that back in the day, where anything that they did, they brought it back to their community. For me, I was like, this is why you do this. You do this because you're trying to use that shine to give it back to these people. You collect from here, you put it into here, you let this thing benefit others. That's the point of why. Then this thing becomes actually like not for yourself anymore. This thing becomes...
It's bigger than you.
Yeah, always is bigger than you. Always is. But then it's majority of you realize later in life that not everybody feels this way with regards to why they want to be on TV or whatever like that, or why they like to see themselves in front of a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people just even knew what like a real leader was. I think a lot of people just want to be on top and have the shine. And to them, that's almost like a form of leadership. Like, hey, follow me, look at me. But I think a lot of people, it's their greed and their vanity that got them there, or their insecurity, right?
Yeah, I can never. I ain't gonna front with you, bro. Like, I can't really like understand what it is, because I feel like you have to empathize with that. And I'm kind of scared sometimes to empathize with those things, because I kind of don't want to know what that feels like sometimes, to be like, oh, that's why you want to get the money, like because you want to kind of like, do this, you know what I
Just
mean?
like he
Like,
says, like in the Bible it says you can't serve two masters because you'll love one and you'll hate the other.
you know, I
And a
agree
lot of
with
people
that.
are just serving money. That's like their goal. And
That's
that's
a,
their master.
that's their God, bro. Real talk.
And then if
Yeah.
that's their master, they're just trying to store treasures up from themselves. They're not really thinking about giving to others. And if they do, they're giving to others to show people like, hey, look how good I am, which is not sincere out of the heart. I'm sure there's people who like do so much that we don't even know what they're doing. We don't even know how they're
Yeah,
uplifting
always keep that
communities,
in
right?
mind. Always.
And that's important because some
Always.
people will just, I have extra money, let me give. But let me make sure I do a press release on how much I gave so people can see me in a positive light because I want to perfect my public image. And that's not even true giving.
No, B.
That's
I
still
can't-
serving
no,
like money as your
yeah,
master,
no,
right?
No. Yeah, no.
And that's just what I saw when I was in LA. I just like I saw, oh, money is the master here. Even if I didn't know if it was money, I just knew it was something that was a lesser light.
Man, I hear you. I experienced it locally. Like when we got very involved with like a lot of the local scene, and this was like 2016, 2017-ish. I remember like everybody was in competition, so everybody always had an opinion on everybody. But the moment we all got in one room as all peers or artists, videographers, dancers, whatever, because there would always be events. Like I know Fortune. I remember when the Alexander was still a thing. They had a lot of like functions where like they'd bring many local artists together.
Community functions.
Yeah, huge community functions, which are beautiful.
Yep.
But then sometimes you're in these places and like you're there, you're enjoying each other because everybody, you could tell like everyone is just seeking the validation of their peer because, but the moment if anybody lifted off, they was never going to speak to you like that, like for real. So it's like, okay, so why are we all really here in this room? Who's really trying to help each other? Because there's a lot of stuff that you're saying, but I know like how y'all feel. Like if at any moment you could dead the competition, you would. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
I get it. So I'm kind of staying on my tippy toes for the sake of like survival, also character. Like I don't want to move goofy. Like if I really like you, I tell you. Like I really like, hey, I really enjoy what you do. I think this is really fly. I personally like, I love giving flowers. That to me is like, inspiration comes from all forms. You don't have to be famous to inspire me. That's number one. You ain't gotta be top tier or in a that it never worked like that for me. You could be doing something just who you are, your kindness, and it's like, oh bro, I want more of that. How are you like this? Like, you know what I mean? And then you would see that, you would see humbleness in a lot of things. I'm very thankful to this day. I'm still very much connected with so many of our peers. And then like more recently, one of the brothers, such a nice brother. I didn't really know him like that, but he let us use his space for particular sessions sometimes. And it was just a character thing. Like we didn't really know who he was. He's like, yeah, you can just come and like use our space. And then I'm not surprised, like, to this day, then this brother's like track 7 produced on that 21 and Drake joint, you know what I mean? Just off of the character. And to this day, you send a, hey, yo, B, that was what's up. Like, that was cool. And still they come back on some like, yeah, for sure. It's like, oh no, you were always that. I walked into this brother's room. I'm just blanking on his name right now, but we walked into his space. This brother had like, it's small things, bro. Like it's small things. Like this brother had his first royalty check framed on his wall, and it was like 50 cents or something, like something small. It's like, certain things you can see of a person, you're like, oh no, you have gratitude and value like tapped in.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't really word those things back, and I was still like really hyped up about particular things, but yeah, connections with people and these type of things, they were huge turnoffs. I remember one of my final things when I knew like, yeah, you know what, man, like something about this is not right. I worked really hard at this one job to save up $3,000 for like a Wonder Girl beat. Cause like I had a plug to get, at this time I was working with a producer from the inner circles of like 808 Mafia. Like it was pretty cool. Like it was the first time I was pretty close to like people who knew the people like I like listening to. And even the way it happened was like cool. Like it was again like it was like a cool fact. It's like, oh, Kanye's in town, Mike Dean's in town. So Mike Dean brought some of his guys, and one of those guys is open to connecting with the people here. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go meet homie, man. Let's go see what's going on. Then I remember I was saved up $3,000, and then I approached the brother. I was like, all right, man, let's hear these beats. Man, no offense to Wonder Girl. Wonder Girl's one of the tops. When I tell you, these are the most trash beats I've ever heard of in my life, yo. I worked like 6 months, B, to hear.
Well, you think they were just previewing some of their throwaways?
Oh, bro, I got the dirt. I got the
You
bottom
didn't
of the
get,
barrel scraps,
yeah,
bro.
you got the,
I got the scraps, right?
yeah, you got the scraps.
And I'm like, hey man, like hold on. I was like, for some reason, I'm still so naive. You know what I mean? I'll never let some of those things go. I really do believe naivety is such a big blessing, because if you're naive, you will see beautiful things. Still, you will see beautiful things that, like,
Yeah,
the world
yeah.
did not take away from you. You did not get destroyed by the world's conditioning. If you're naive, that means you have a part of your younger self still there. The innocence is still within you. You know what I mean? So I really, really love, like, to be the naivety. And anytime you find anything with naivety, it's like, oh, that's amazing. That's why I'm still very energetic today, because it's just like, I can't really contain it. You know what I mean? It's just a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to be very wondrous about things, very excited about things still. But I was like, yo, y'all can't send this energy. Like, for me, watching the Kanye doc, you know how Kanye knew, like, yo, like, I'm so energetic. Like, he kind of knows, like, listen, like, you don't understand that, like, this is this, like,
Like who I am.
yeah, or even, yeah, not, yeah, who I am, or like, you don't understand that this can make this. Like, do you not see this roadmap? Like, if we put this together like this and do this like this, like, it will make this. Do you guys not see that? And it's like, no, we don't. And then that was always like, ah, man, all right, B, well, that was always my crush. So I remember when I heard those, I was like, all right, like, you know, I'm cool. I have extra 3K here now. Like, you know what I mean? All right, that's cool. Like,
Saved up.
I have this extra $3,000 saved up.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna purchase any of these, but that was, yeah, that was the beginnings of, like, you know, the final things that pushed me away from giving all of myself to this. I think that's what it was. Like, you know, first I gave all of myself, then slowly I didn't give this part. Then I said, I don't want to give this part anymore. And then, okay, you know what? And then slowly it becomes like this, like, all right, man. And
Right.
then you shut the door behind you, kind of thing. And now you're kind of out here in this empty room. You're
Yeah.
like, all right, man. So then what was that all? Not even what was that all for? Not even questioning that. But, okay, so then what is this all for, really? Like, not the thing, these abilities. What are these abilities all for? What are these gifts all for?
To me, it's the glory of God.
I mean, of course, we know that now, but you know that moment when you finally put the camera down and you was like, now you did the wedding stuff, and then you're slowly getting to this conversation. You didn't know at that point, like, how connected was you with your relationship with God at that point in your life?
Yeah, I didn't know at that point, and I actually made a video where when it hit me, and I said in the video too, I'm like, now I know, like, why I'm here. You know, now I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I think in the video I put, you know, powered by Jah in association with Hindzsight, meaning, like, I'm just here to, like, spread God's message. I'm just here to whatever glorify that light the best way I can. It's not even about me. That's why I'm just, like, associated. It's really just powered by the Most High. But before, it's like my main fuel was one, just creativity, of course, and just expressing myself. But my main fuel was just, like, trying to be the best, trying to climb that ladder. You know, be like, yo, I want to be one of these big dudes. I want to be like a big director like Colin Tilley. I want to have a #1 Billboard song and a #1 music video. I want a house like this. It was all these materials. Really, that was my fuel, because just like the rap culture, that's what it taught you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get rich or die trying. That was, and you know, and I saw how that was a dead end. So through my journey, and I just had that revelation, I'm like, oh no, there's just so much more to explore. And like, I felt the peace within myself, and I'm like, I want to share this. Like, I feel more peace and happiness sitting in my tiny little apartment in New Westminster with no money, but for some reason I feel a calm presence, a peace over my spirit, more than when I was doing things where the world thought I was doing more. Like right now, the world would say, you're doing nothing. You got nothing to talk about, you got nothing to show. But I'm like, I feel like I have so much more in these moments. And that was just like a wild light bulb moment for me. Because I'm like, nah, like I feel right now, I'm like content. Like I don't even need, I don't have money. I'm like struggling to pay rent, but I was like, I'm fine. I'm taken care of. I'm guided. Like I'm good. I'm happy. You know, I wasn't happy before, but I'm happy now. And like, I'm like, if I could just spread that feeling, let me do so. And I just started to like share like my little lifestyle on like Snapchat, like, or in stories, maybe it was Instagram stories, whatever one. And people just seemed to be interested in how I was living. Like back then I was just really in tune with what I was eating, my music, the senses, the sounds, just like the lifestyle of just like, you know, living a quiet and simple life, you know, taking so much pride in making tea every single day. And people just seemed to be interested. They're like, hey, did you move? They thought I moved to the Caribbean because I like laced my crib in
Because you had,
bamboo.
yeah. But
And
then you did have a couple of visuals where you was out there in like
I'll
Jamaica
be
and
out
stuff.
there,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
people thought that, but then they just noticed how I kind of just had tons of plants in my home,
Yeah.
bamboo out.
Lots of good energy.
I just kind of created my own little sanctuary, and they were interested in that. And when I saw that they were interested in that, I was like, oh, could I just like make something in my crib? Like, can I just make something here? And then I started to play around with my voice, little voiceovers, and started to just make a little content. And then I loved it. Nobody was really watching it. I didn't have an audience. Some people would see it and they're like, oh, that's great. But some people didn't understand it either. But I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. Let me try this. And then that's when I got on camera. But when I got on camera, I was shy. I had to put my glasses on because I couldn't look right in the lens. It was a process to get more comfortable with it. But I could just speak. I was like, for years, I was just learning about myself, not really talking to anybody about it. And then it would just naturally come out and I could speak like very clear and precise. And the people that did watch it seemed to get some type of value from it. So I was like, oh, let me just continue to do this. But no like real plan, no real like, what is this going to be? Because I didn't think it could be anything. I'm just like, at least I'm creating again.
Yeah, it was really ill is like your relationship with creativity and just making things it was definitely it's like a limb for you, it had nothing ever to do with what you receive from it. That's like bar none. It was just like it's a part of the way you are living your life as you.
Yeah, that's why I say like our highest form of nutrition is in our expression. I just believe like creating is like a form of eating.
Yeah.
Like it's
bro,
just something I need to do
for real.
Because I would find like when I would stop creating and I get into like a mood, I get into like a bad space, and then I create one thing and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm alive again. And I'm like, well, why do you stop creating? Like, why do you do that?
Yeah, you can't really stop. You can't really stop it. Sometimes, like like even the simplicity of like when you're outside and you just like for me, one of the biggest inspirations is always the sky. I really think about the aspect that the illustration in the sky, whether it's never, all of them are always different every day.
Yeah, every day it's a different thing. Yeah,
that was always amazing to me. I became I don't know when I became conscious of it, but I became conscious that like I'm an artist, but I'm a creation. And I was like, oh, but dude, God is like the greatest artist, like straight up. Like,
he's
and I became,
every day.
I became very inspired by some simple things like the sky.
Yeah.
And like, just even like how you said, like, it's just like certain things you see, let me capture a photo of it. And sometimes like that was the contentment for the whole day. Like I just got one of the most beautiful, to me, the feeling and then the shot, and then it was just it'd be then I would I'd make the sky my wallpaper. Like often, like it changes. My phone wallpaper is always just a very nice sky that I would see that was like, oh, this one really hit really nice or whatever like that to this day.
Well, for me, like creating was like reading scripture for me. Like I felt like I was learning more about myself through creation, and I felt like I was stepping into like a relationship with God through creation. Because I'm like, God's a creator. So, I'm mimicking what God did. He creates.
Yeah,
I'm creating. And like I was learning about myself through creation. It was like a tool for self-development and self-discovery.
You had what's it called? Your mom is a heavy believer? Like your mom is a praying woman like that? No, she's not, eh?
No, nobody in my family.
So then
no one in my family is spiritual or religious. My mom is like, I say my mom's kind of spiritual. Like, I mean, she, in the sense of like, she like books that are maybe about spirituality or like Oprah was her main person. You know how Oprah is really big in the new age. So whatever book Oprah recommends, my mom would go read it. But no one in my family is religious. No one growing up was like, believe in this, believe in that, or there's no culture of God around me. There was nothing. It was just actually a complete freedom for me to explore.
Yeah, it is amazing. In Islam, we have there's a lot of knowledge in the Islamic perspective of what this is. Every human being, they have inside of them the soul, and in Arabic, the soul means fitra. Fitra is like that's why newborn babies, they're innocent. They have that fitra. It's very clean. The only way it gets muddied up is when the influence of the parents and the influence of the world as the child grows up. And if you think about it as like a crystal clear glass ball, for a baby, it's always very clear. A baby's connection with the Most High is bar none. Like if they could speak, the things that they would be able to say and articulate is very like, the more you grow up, that thing gets covered up. However, for some individuals, depending on the heart, they don't have to be Muslim. I mean, the Quran is a book for mankind, first and foremost, you know what I mean? So it's like, for any human being, because in the Quran is written for three types of people. It's written for the practicing, believing Muslim. It's written for like the born Muslim, and it's written for the universal of mankind. So some things like gratitude is a universal lesson. You don't have to be religious to have gratitude in your life.
You don't even have to, yeah.
You don't gotta be any religious to have gratitude.
To be a believer at all, yeah.
Positivity, like these things is just, you know, this is just like, you know, the neutral in that aspect. But if you explore and you keep certain things like integrity, like, you know what I mean? Like when I listen to your story, there's a lot of integrity in it. You know, that's what's up. There's a lot of like, you chose to say no to things that they equal sacrifice. Real talk. Like you sacrifice things. You sacrifice, and sacrifice reaps all reward. Like real talk. Like sacrifice brings all. And even if for you it wasn't maybe like difficult, like, you know, for you it was like common sense almost. It was like, yeah, you know what, I don't like this, so I'm gonna stop doing this. But if you look at it from an outside perspective, like, bro, you build up a large part of your life to get really good at this thing and do this thing really well. You're just gonna say you're gonna stop because of like you don't like the way that this guy's rolling up in his Benz and the way he's talking about. Like if you really think about it from the outside, that's almost like AOB. But this is an introspective thing. You know, these things they actually clean. They clean that crystal clear ball. It's the equivalent of like shooting it with a Windex and wiping off a lot of that dirt that's accumulated of the world.
I think it's like cleaning the inside of your cup.
That's what it is.
Focus on the outside, but it's like going inside.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Exactly.
A little bit of a shine. Because I used to always say like it takes sacrifice to have a deeper relationship with yourself, but then really it takes sacrifice, I think, as well to have a deeper relationship with God.
No, I mean, all of the prophets they sacrificed everything. They sacrificed everything. They did all that. So it's very cool then that you were you decided to go the extra mile in selflessness. You went like, you know, you separated yourself from the peace, and then you separated your perspective of things about yourself, and you can kind of see like what you're feeling in front of you as if it was like, you know, on a screen or whatever. And then you went one step further, and then you even let go of why things are the way that they are, which is always very amazing to hear. Yeah. Not only speaking from Islam is, they say Islam is a religion, but it's not really a religion. It's a lifestyle. And in Arabic, that word is called deen. Deen is a lifestyle. So it's like, as far as the lifestyle aspect of it, looking at it from that perspective, it's always very amazing to see people tap into that and let go. And me, I wasn't a practicing brother at all. Like I only started practicing at 22, and like from like 0 all the way to 22, I was just a free roaming. You're just spirit.
Like more culturally like Muslim, like because your family.
Yeah, it was like you grew up and you're Muslim because your family's Muslim.
Yeah.
But what does Muslim mean? I don't know. Grandma would have a get together with like, you know, the with the family, and then they'd be doing prayers in the living room.
Yeah.
I don't know why we do this.
Right.
My mom would be like, hey, all the men are praying. Go pray. All right. You know, it's moms. All right, let's go. You know, you're doing all the motions, but you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But there's certain things, even when I look back in my life, they were pretty wondrous. I remember when my mother told me, after you finish your prayer, if you put your hands like this and you ask for anything, like you'll get it. That was always, because it's imagination. You're a child, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, but then you're asking for like
Nintendo,
your friends, and like, you know, like you know, toys, or can we like, oh my God, this new game is coming out, like, you know, like that's how. Yeah, it wasn't, again, it was about what you want. It was never about, you know, you're young, but it is what it is. I mean,
people even as adults still just be asking for things, because the shift for me went from asking for things to asking for like just the fruits of the spirit, like, you know, more understanding, you know, more strength. Yeah. Oh, I feel jealousy in my heart.
That's guidance.
Can you work on this jealousy in my heart?
That's guidance.
Yeah.
That's guidance.
Especially when I went into that season of letting go of everything. Around that time, all my friends started to blow up in what they were doing, and everyone's traveling, doing crazy things, and I'm in this uncertain place. And I was definitely jealous because I didn't have nothing on my own. I'm just watching everyone succeed.
Yeah, it hurts. Yeah.
And I'd have to ask God, like, yo, can you work on this heart with me? Like, you know, I'm gonna love everyone. I'm gonna support them still, but like, I feel this jealousy. I don't even like it. Like, let me mature the heart a little bit.
But do you remember when you first made that transition in yourself, when you were like speaking to yourself, and then you said, you know what, I'm gonna let that go, I'm gonna speak to a higher power? Do you remember when you started speaking to a higher power, like when that consciously became a thing, or when you were like, hey, this is something I like to do, I like to speak to something other than myself that I can feel that's there?
I don't remember the exact moment, but I know the season. you know, around that time.
Okay.
I think when I was younger, I remember like when I watch award shows and I would see people thank God. I was like, why do they do that? I didn't understand it because I
Word.
was like, you did it. You know, like as a
Word for
kid,
sure. I hear you.
I was
I hear you.
like, who are you talking to? I don't think I was an atheist, but I just was like, had imagination. I believed in aliens. You know, I believed like, I believe I came from a different planet. Like I was just believed in a lot of stuff. Get into like ancient aliens on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like the Anunnakis and stuff, like everything.
Big facts.
You know, so I didn't back then. I didn't understand. So I wasn't an atheist. I definitely had a crazy imagination. I believed in something beyond myself. But it was in that season where I let go of that camera, and the 3 years I went into celibacy was when I was like, oh, I'm being guided, yo. Like I'm being guided, and I started talking above and starting to like
You started.
fine tune.
Yeah, you were
who
practicing
that
purity,
was.
but you were actually what you were doing. You're what you were doing, and like you're practicing purity, but you were actually just like maybe you weren't conscious of it at that time, but you were just trying to fix aspects of your own self. You know, what I mean, trying to better yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
it was.
exactly.
I was trying to fix aspects of my own self, and I was
Yeah.
just seeing so much growth from it. You know, I changed completely the way I eat. Like that was a big thing too. Just I became very conscious of everything I consumed. So I was like, oh man, what am I listening to? This music. I'm listening to horrible music. This lyrics are horrible. Let me get rid of this. Instrumentals. I went strictly to the instrumentals for a long time. And then I was just eating. What am I eating, man? All I used to eat was like fried foods, chicken, rice. I'm like, let me pure this up. Started making smoothies, a little bit more green life and like plant life in my diet. Started feeling amazing. Started just having new energy. And then the celibacy was just like the best thing ever, because now it's like I wasn't a slave, a complete slave to my flesh. You know, I'm not watching porn anymore. I'm not like seeking out women who aren't good for me. I'm not even seeking out women, period. I'm just like using all of that and learning more, putting into myself, I could say, or, you know, creativity or whatever it may be. So I went through like a 3-year thing where it was like, I felt like I went into a temple because I wasn't in the world. I wasn't like conversating with many people. I wasn't doing much. I was like in my own thing, just learning. And people thought I was going crazy. My mom was really worried about me. I was growing my hair. I'm not like eating dinner with them anymore because I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat what you're eating. And they're like, yo, you're going crazy. And I was like, I feel better though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were
know?
going through you were transforming into what you were consciously aware of, and again, it all ties back to feeling. And it's very funny how like that is the compass for many people who go through that spiritual journey. I know, like I was very surprised myself when the way I felt sitting. I was reading about revolutionaries, and I felt good, and I said this is better than leaders in music. Then I said, but like, you know, there has to be more than just this. Like there has to be more than just people. And then I was like, oh well, you know, I come from a religion that has prophets in it. Like let me read about you know the prophets. Let me read about Moses and Jesus and
Abraham and stuff.
yeah, Abraham and you know Jacob or Yaqub in Arabic, and then you know like in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which is like you know the main leader in this deen. And then I was reading and I'm like, man, it's very hard to not fall in love with the way that they were. I almost inspire. It's like you aspire to be that in total control of like this like disciplined version of yourself that was like able to do so many benefits for the planet. Like that was so beautiful. Yeah, man, I know. Like we grew up in the era where they was always telling us that you can change the world. So I never let that one go. That one
I've always believed
I
in
keep that
too.
to me to this day.
Yeah.
I still, and it's very much at the forefront, always and still, which is why anytime something happened that felt like this was not gonna help the effect of this, I'm eyed on that for real. This thing really brought that back. I'm reading stories and looking at this scripture that's speaking about these world changers and influencers that, and not only that, but why they did it, the sake of why they did it, and it was for the sake of God, very selfless, very letting go. And I felt that way about art. Why do I create things? Why do I do projects for free? It's not about getting anything back from it. The feeling you get just giving it out was like priceless.
Yeah, because it's like a gift to the world and yourself. You're giving a gift to yourself. This process.
I always felt like this. Like for some people, they could express themselves via just their words.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can talk to you, and I feel like I got all my feelings out, and then I feel better. Okay, that's beautiful. I always felt like with me, it's like I have to show it to you with the visual. If I also need to put a little thing on it, I can do that as well. If I had to do it via lyrics and a beat, I have to do that as well. But once I give you my full opinion on something, this is really truly how I feel. My opinion is not just with my words, or the way I feel is not just with my words in a conversation basis. It's this entire piece. Once I give you this entire piece, then you can go, oh, okay. Then people was like, oh man, that's crazy. I didn't know that it was like that for you. It's like, yeah, man, that's what I was trying to say. But it's hard to sometimes just say that with words, because there's so much that goes around particular
For sure.
deep
Yeah.
thoughts. And always was very introspective and philosophical.
Yeah.
Always pondering, always thinking. Not overthinking what happened, but I love thinking. I love to think and break things down, and it was just always a very fun thing to do. I guess like one thing I share from your story was like, I like being in my own world. Maybe sometimes not by myself, but definitely in my own world. I like being in my own world. Like even going outside, I'm in here more so than being in the present. Nowadays, as I'm older, I'm not gonna lie, like being in the present has been very helpful. But yeah, man, it's like, the surviving of like walking around and in school, or if I'm even out. I remember just taking the SkyTrain or whatever. Like it's always headphones plugged in. You always have a soundtrack to your life, what you feel. Even though I'm seeing the same stops every day, I'm going to the same city, or I'm walking down, my backpack, whatever gear on, I'm going. But if I can paint a picture of how I'm feeling at this very moment, this thing is helping me. This thing is making me feel connected at the end of the day. And it was very amazing when all of that was happening without any sort of like third party use, no headphone, no nothing. When it just came down to like connecting with the Most High, like being in the mosque. I'll never forget like sitting in the mosque and like the feelings and praying with the brothers and everything. I'll never forget. I was like, the feeling I get here is like what it takes for me to create an entire project, but I'm getting it right now, right here in like 5 minutes of just being. Like nothing. There's nothing to do. I don't have to plug any headphones in my ears. I don't have to pick up my camera and shoot something.
It was like how AI could do things faster.
Yeah, man. Yo, that kind of thing makes you really think about things like, all right, something is, no, I'm missing something. There's something that I didn't get. And it's very hard to walk away from that. You have to, it takes a special type of like distrust, I think, to walk away from something that honest when you feel it. You know what I mean? Like real talk. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
You feel me? Like,
yeah, for sure. In the moment, you don't, see it like that, because you're just in the motions. But when you look back, you're like, oh, that took a lot of trust to step out of that.
it was very scary. I can tell you, like, for me, when I knew that I wanted to do, I learned in, I think, like, I learned in 2019 that I was ready to dive fully in to being a practical Muslim. And like, what that meant was also taking the values, because in Islam you can't consume like music like that.
I heard that.
Yeah, you can't consume music.
That one's wild to me.
That was the toughest thing for me. That was like, when I tell you the like, to this day, like in Arabic the word is nafs, which means like desire. And there in Islam there's so much knowledge on the fight with desire, but there's also so much strategy in how to beat it. In fact, like, for example, like next Friday they have a scholar coming in whose specific expertise is how to destroy like lusts and lying and like how to take these things out of you, and what that means, like the actual human ingredient, and how to basically finesse it so that you are not corrupted on the inside, even though you look like how you look outside. Because again, anybody can look holy on the outside. Anybody can have a beard. They can wear the garment. They can be sitting at the front of a congregation. They can be giving you knowledge. But what they're basically doing is they're just spitting black and white on the inside. They struggle with a lot of different things, and that's something you cannot see. Yeah. In order to actually be like true in this practice, you have to have that align with the outside as well. So for me, this because like I grew up desire based, bro. Desire is what was like the leading.
Yeah.
Of course, it's natural actually.
Yeah, it's very natural.
I mean, that's the story of Adam and
It's
Eve.
like the desires of the flesh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the story of Adam and Eve.
it's a daily struggle.
Yeah, we're made this way. In the it's funny because God tells Adam to not. I don't know how it is in the biblical perspective, but in the Islamic perspective, God did not tell Adam to not eat the fruit. He said just don't go near the tree. So for
No, in the Old Testament, he does tell Adam not to eat the fruit, and the
Word.
problem is Adam doesn't really convey that message to Eve, and then she goes and eats it and brings it to him, and he also takes a bite.
I see.
And then from there, they introduce sin into the scene.
This in the Islamic perspective, he was told don't go near the tree, and the wisdom behind that was, the moment you step towards sin, you end up doing a much larger sin.
Yeah, that's still
Yeah.
that's still in the Bible as well, right? Because like Jesus will be like, look at the commandments, don't commit adultery. But Jesus says, well, even if you just look at a woman,
Yeah.
or it's like, thou shalt not kill. Even if you just hate, he's like, I'm gonna go deeper. I'm gonna take it deeper for you.
Word.
Yeah, don't kill someone. We all know, like, don't kill someone.
For sure.
But even if you hate your brother, you've committed.
Yeah.
You've killed him in your heart.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we share this in Islam as well. You cannot you cannot enter heaven if you have beef with your brother. You have to
Right.
you have to be good with your people.
I think it says that in the Old Testament as well. Like before you even come to the altar, make sure you and your brother are good.
Yeah,
Like,
you cannot have no debts.
Yeah,
no
yeah,
debts.
Make sure
Yeah.
you're loving.
So this is we're built like this. Like we're humans naturally. This is the test of life. The test of life is you're gonna be. Will you choose this life, or will you sacrifice that to have the gain after the fact? That's the test of this life, and like
And it's-
every new test will come every time you succeed or fail through that last one.
And it's very liberating when you accept that. Because I remember growing up, when I would hear of like any type of like religion or biblical knowledge, I always disliked the idea of a born sinner, just like that girl in the Discord, right? Because it's just like, people don't like that, to hear that, we have a sinful nature. But once I actually realized that we do, I'm like, oh, I'm aware of it now. Now I can actually have the free will to choose a more righteous decision and like have God guide me to what is holy in his eyes. But a lot of people don't even recognize that we do have a sinful nature. If you're not even aware of these things, of your desires of the flesh, then you become it. You become like one with it. And now you take what is bad and it becomes good.
Yeah.
And you kind of like normalize it.
God describes himself as being very forgiving and most merciful. Actually, in fact, that's one of his names. He's most forgiving, most merciful. If humans did not sin, these names actually become irrelevant. And in the Quranic perspective, God says that even if you were to all stop sinning, I would take you all away and bring a civilization that does, because the point is you have to come back to me to ask for forgiveness, because that's like the nature.
Yeah.
It's the nature of God. You know what I mean? It's a spiritual shower. Like, for example, like for me, one thing that really saved me, like my life, to be honest, was repentance. Repentance really saved me. It felt amazing to sit down, because every human being knows all of the really, really, really dark sides of themselves. Like every
Yeah.
human being knows what those are.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to be real with that. That's
You
the point
have
of
to,
repentance.
you have to confront it.
But a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah, but you will not find peace if you don't. And I knew for me, I had very unsettled parts of myself, because I just felt really like I had a lot of guilt. Like I went through my trials as well coming up. I mean, of course. I mean, like as a young adult, you get some freedom. You have access to particular things. And if you don't have self-control, you're gonna do some things that you're gonna be like, man, I really wish I didn't do that. Like, when you look back at it, you feel me?
Yeah.
But how do you clean this now? Because it's like, man, maybe I definitely was at the end of like hurting some people. Like I was a person that hurt people, and then when I realized like, oh man, like this is really bad. Like, when you're the one who can say like, you've been hurt, you always use that as a power, and you can use it as inspiration in the art and so on and so forth. I mean, oh, like nobody, like, they don't listen to me. But if you become the other side of that, and you become the person that caused pain,
Yep.
if you do not like become conscious of what that means, and for me, it really messed me up. It hurt that I had that on me. Like, I'm going to wake up in my own body, look at my eyes in the mirror through my own eyes, and know, like, hey, you know what? You have that badge on you. Like, you have that badge of, like, being responsible for causing people, like, pain who, like, would arguably they wouldn't want to speak to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't like that I had that. It was, like, the first times I had that, and I was like, I just did something to destroy, like, a big part of me that wasn't like that before.
I realize, like, everyone is a supervillain in someone's story at some point in their life. It's just true. Like everyone will play the bad guy at some point. You know, it just happens, and then you do.
Interesting.
You have to repent for that and know what you've done, and then
Yeah, bro. Like sitting down, talking to the Most High, because in Islam, like God says He's the most forgiving, most merciful. Same God in both our religions, most forgiving, most merciful. If you just turn back and ask for forgiveness, you will be forgiven. To me, the idea of knowing that there is a thing that exists that will clean you, like there's something in the world that exists that says if you do this aspect, you are clean in the eyes of the Most High. That was fly to me. Because I couldn't even look at myself and forgive myself. I mean, naturally, I'm just hard on myself, naturally. Especially when you're young. Sometimes, like, that's just like kind of how it is. And to this day, I'm learning to get better at it. But we were very hard on ourselves. How can I forgive myself? Like, I feel so bad for what I did. To know that you can empty that out and ask for the forgiveness. I remember I started to repent. I used to sit down on my prayer mat. I used to like sit for like 30 to 45 minutes. I used to make a lot of prayer, and I used to always like ask for forgiveness. I'm very sorry for this. Forgive me for my arrogance, my ignorance, my major, my minor sins, what I've done openly, privately. Forgive me for the things I did knowingly, unknowingly. Like, these words would come naturally because it's how I felt on the inside. You start to feel all of this weight leave you. It just leaves you. And alhamdulillah, God never turns back on His word. So He says, I will. Not maybe. Like, I will. It's all about turning back. The sincerity of turning back and accepting that you are just a creation. At the end of the day, we all fall back into submission. Which is, that's what Islam means. Islam translated actually it means submission.
Submits himself to God, right?
Submission, exactly. So it's like you submit. At the end of the day, even when Adam ate the fruit, the same thing in the Quran. When Adam ate the fruit, he felt so bad. When he repented to God, he said, please forgive me, for what I've done. If you do not forgive me, I will surely be amongst the losers. In that moment, God said, no problem. I forgive you 100%. But now you know what it means to be what you are as humans. So then in the Islamic perspective, that's when they sent them to the earth. And they had Cain and Abel and so on and so forth.
So now when they're exiled from the garden?
Yeah, that's when they were exiled. But in Islam, they weren't exiled out of punishment. They had to experience that thing to be sent to earth to then experience what it means to be human. You're gonna make mistakes. It wasn't an exile like a punishment. There's no punishment at all. It was a part of the learning journey of Adam.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not what I mean by exile, but it was like a separation technically from like where they were.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to be in heaven anymore. This actually really hurt Adam. Like
so wait, in the Quran, like the Garden of Eve is in heaven.
It's in heaven.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a separate place. They were in Jannah, in heaven.
So they were in physical form?
Physical form.
Okay.
Physical form.
So what was like Adam made out of in the Quran perspective?
He's made out of clay.
Okay. So in the Quran, then like heaven's like a physical like realm. Like it has like soil, like the earth has soil.
Yeah. Okay. It's a physical place, just like hell is a physical place. And is different dimensions. And I mean, even
different dimensions,
yeah. Even actually, we experience different dimensions actually in this life because Quran is a very amazing. Like I can't wait to study the aspects of not only the Quranic theology but the biblical theology because there's just so many amazing parallels. But one thing about the Quran, that's
because to me it almost seems like that would be like a requirement because obviously the Old Testament is a few thousand years before the Quran was written, and obviously like so these stories are coming. A lot of the Quran stories are obviously coming from. I mean, I guess in the Quran perspective, it's like the angel Gabriel spoke to Muhammad. Yeah. Right. But still saying like the Old Testament was already like around for like a very long time.
It was. All these books like actually, you know what's so funny? I just learned yesterday because we had a theological scholar come by our community and give a lecture, and he was speaking about how 150 years after the crucifixion of Christ, and there's like documents. This is when you're gonna know John, Matthew, Luke, and the last one, the fourth one.
Yeah, I think it was less than 150 years.
Okay, but around this,
I think I forget but someone's writings was like 50 years after.
Actually, it was a bishop from France then said that these were the official books, but like
what, the gospel?
Like these were the official 4 books.
Like Mark, Luke, John, And yeah, I think I know
Yeah,
what you're talking
because they
about.
have like they have a lot of these things to show this, and like one thing that like as a Muslim, for
I think
example,
the book that Muslims reject. I don't know everything, but you guys reject. I think Paul, right?
no, you know what? We don't reject any book actually.
No.
No, we don't. But our we do have like trained scholars that can point out where humans switched the message in these books. Because if you really look back at the history, there was a lot of like bishops and priests who came in and started collecting things after the crucifixion of Christ, and started to put together the religion like this. Not to lie to people, but they were collecting documents. There was like sincerity in what they were doing. However, when they were filling in gaps, this is when particular contradictions started to happen. And the thing with, and actually, you know, the Bible was this for the Torah back in the day for like Judaism. Judaism had their book, but then if you look at the history, they really fell off their Richter. Like the practicing Jewish people, they stopped practicing their book. Christ came as a reminder for them too, alongside the people of his time.
Yeah, yeah. Like he came to fulfill the law,
Yeah.
and also like for the Gentiles.
And actually, Jesus, he mentions the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the Bible. He calls him Ahmed, actually.
Where in the Bible?
I'll find you it.
Really?
Yeah, but it's here. Yeah, yeah. This
I
is
don't
like
think it's actually. It's not. Muhammad is not mentioned.
no.
like,
He's
the
mentioned
name.
he's mentioned as Ahmed, but Jesus says, well,
'Cause
after
there's, I
me.
think there's obviously like Christians and then Muslims will like debate on that one because I've seen people debate that
Yeah.
and say he didn't mention Muhammad because I think in Galatians 1:18, this is where you'll find a debate between Christians and Muslims. Is I think Galatians 1 is it Galatians 1:18 or Galatians 1:8? It says if anybody else comes or even an angel comes and preaches a different gospel than the one we're giving you right now, that is false. So that's why you won't have Christians go to the
Yeah, I
Quran
know.
because they'll say, well, the Quran is preaching. There's contradictions from the Quran that people in the Bible believe, which in the Bible it says if someone else comes with a different that contradicts what we were telling you right now,
Yeah.
don't follow that. And
Word.
then obviously in the Quran it says, hey, there's things here that are wrong. So I don't think there will ever be like there's so many similarities with the Abrahamic religions, especially just because of the Old Testament. But I think there will never be like a clear agreement between Jewish people, Muslims, and Christians, because the one difference in everything will come to the conversation of Jesus, right? You'll have Jewish people don't even believe in Jesus.
Yeah, they don't.
Muslims have great respect for Jesus, right?
Yeah, we are not Muslim if we don't believe in Jesus. We believe
the
in the
Prophet.
second coming. He's
Yeah.
mentioned the most in the
Right,
Quran.
so there's so many of those like things there that are very similar, right?
Yeah.
But then there's obviously little things that were like I always say in like society. This is off topic. In society with like the whole like gender ideology, you'll never have a common ground in it. You know, society will never fully merge on that.
For sure.
It's always going to be
But now
a
you're
debate.
you're tapping into the answer. Actually, a lot of the people that because blind faith is a real thing, and I know that I believe like in the Christianity perspective, like there's a big is a positive thing to have blind faith, is it not? Is it or is it not to have blind faith?
I think the main thing is I want to call it blind faith. It's obviously faith, but the main thing is that like, listen, since we are like flawed by nature, it doesn't matter how many good works you do. That is not like your ticket into eternal life, because if that is the way, then people boast about their own works, like, oh, I can get into heaven because I've done good. Or are you even doing good because you truly want a relationship with God, or are you doing good because you think this is going to give you eternal life? The whole point is that like through the belief, through your faith, through your undeniable belief, God is so gracious that's what gives you eternal life, is your belief. Because at that point, you can't boast about how many good works you do. You can't stack up your credit. You can't stack up your tallies.
It's the same.
And then through that, you're basically, you could say God has given you a new spirit and guided you to like now raise your heart posture to where you're performing good works because you love God, but not because you're trying to like be like, God, I've meditated 50,000 times, or, you know, I didn't eat pork today, so, you know, boom, I'm going to heaven. And that's basically in like the Old Testament, the Jews were so stuck on the law that like when Jesus came and healed someone on the Sabbath, they're like, yo, look what you're doing. This is like horrible. And he's like, listen, you're so bound to like your law right now that you won't even help a brother on the Sabbath because you think you should just be resting.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna call you out. And he kept doing that all the time. In the Gospels, he's calling people out because they couldn't even lead with compassion sometimes.
Yeah, he was performing open miracles, and they still had an arrogance to not believe what they saw with their own very eyes. And we believe the exact same thing on this side as well. And actually, what you're speaking of is also the same ticket into heaven. Like, your deeds do not get you into heaven. It's only the acceptance and grace of the Most High. You could have been praying for a long time. You could have been praying, like, worshiping and everything. Still, it's the Most High. If He accepts you, you're in. Because you're right. It's like, we don't know.
So like, if what is it like if He accepts you? Like, how does He not accept you?
If you really did it for the sake of God, like when you make a project and you just made it and you loved it because you loved it, you didn't ever want anything back from it. You just did it because you loved it.
Yeah.
This is how you practice with the Most High with regards to your spirituality.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It really is, and
because like the Most High knows your heart, so He knows if your belief and your faith is true.
Yeah, He really
knows. Or if you're truly seeking Him.
Yeah, He really knows. Like, for example, and for the Muslim community, we check ourselves often. We criticize our own the most because we're like, if you coming into the mosque and you want to pray, and you're looking the part because you just want like everyone to look at you and be like the aesthetic. Yeah, like, oh, look, he's been praying for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Wow, this brother so mashallah, this brother, Right. No, this is actually a form of idol worshiping. You idling yourself. It's yourself, self-worship, which is like what we see in New Age spirituality. Exactly. It's all self-worship. And this is paganism at the end of the day. We get into some real issues right now, but like that's what that is. You know what I mean? Yeah. And these are the same. But it's crazy how that comes back around. Like, well, no, because that's the nature of that's the nature of disbelievers. Right. Though. Jesus, like the same message that Abraham, Moses, Yusuf, Jacob, Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon them all. They all were fighting against this thing of idol worshiping and associating God with other sources. Mm-hmm. That was the whole thing about it. Mm-hmm. It was like the aspect of like one God created all of everything. So we like stick with the aspect of that. If you start associating partners with God, then you start to get into really different types of things. And that's like the main aspect of what it is. It's like Jesus had a creator. And I always tell my Christian brothers and sisters, like, my advice as a Muslim and having a book that has been the same since its genesis, even though yes there are different things, but it's like there's one book and it's not that big. It's like this big, really. Like the 15-line Quran is like this big. This thing has been the exact same since its genesis all the way. We were just in a museum in Winnipeg, Aga Khan Museum, and they have Qurans from like the 1100s in there. There's also people who like debate that idea. There's like, I've seen scholars on YouTube who say the Quran hasn't been preserved from the very inception, that it's been also like accumulated, but like that doesn't get talked about. I think there's always going to be like debates on that. Because the thing is, it's like, let's say you have like Muslims and Christians who both have very real experiences with God. For sure. Right? Like you're going to have people that tell you like, I had a real revelation with Jesus. Like Jesus was like there. For sure, bro. Interesting, MIA. Yeah. She said like, she's been Hinduism her whole life. Yeah. Actually super against being a Christian or just Abrahamic religions, period. Yeah. Usually that's the culture that comes with being Hindu. Yeah, Hindu, Eastern, stuff like that. Yeah. And then she said she had just like a very real personal like encounter with Jesus. And she's just like, how can you tell somebody like that? Like, no, that's not who I'm going to follow. Actually, no, you can't. Like, this is also by the will of the Most High. Be like, they ask, people ask God, or people have a real genuine question, which is, okay, why does hell exist? That's the one that everyone struggles with. God tells you in Islam, God tells you why hell exists. He says because hell exists because there will be occupants for it. Like people who choose to go there. People who did it to themselves, yeah. You did to yourselves, bro. Like, you're going to get many signs in your life to say, hey, you should probably fix yourself. Well, that's what I realized, right? Because I do truly believe we just all have like a compass within us, right? Absolutely. To go seek and find God. And there's times where we're just like, no, my flesh says this. And, because even at a part, I think it's in Romans in the Bible, it says, some of them have turned their ways against me so many times, I just turn them to their desires. Yeah, what are you gonna do with a person like that? That person gonna get the Rico, bro. Like that's what's gonna happen to him. Like yeah. Like you cannot die. Like you cannot live this way, die, and then expect some sort of like mercy. Like yes, the Most High is the most merciful. This is true, but my brother. You know how much mercy encounters you in your life. signs, feelings on the inside, guilt. You know, guilt is a compass. Guilt is a great compass. Guilt lets you know that you did something wrong. You should probably change that and turn yourself back. I know for a fact that guilt takes you back to true repentance.
100%. That's why I tell people when I get into those porn discussions online, I'm like, ain't nobody watching porn and feeling like liberated and happy after. You feel shame.
That's actually one of the open jokes. It's like, yo, after I'm done, I feel sad.
Yeah,
it's like, that's one of the jokes.
You
it's
close
like,
in your browsers
because you're not
and deleting.
you're supposed to stop. Like,
right. But that guilt is telling you there, you know.
But the human flesh, actually, this thing is designed. That's the test of a human. Just like that's exactly why, like, you know, and it's the same. Actually, evil is the influence for Adam as well. You know what I mean? And there's a deeper aspect of that as well. And it's
But I guess like if for people who are unbelievers, their question is, well, why create a creation and then test them?
Yeah, but then how do you grow?
But some people would be like, I would rather not even be here if like I'm gonna. There's people that these are kind of people who are also I feel like there's the people who kind of represent just like a death cult. Like there's people who are like I don't even want to be here.
It's actually very natural. Like we said, it's natural. There will be believers and disbelievers. That's the balance. There's good and evil.
Yeah.
In the Islamic perspective, when God created the human, he was so proud of it. And in Islam, the human is regarded as the best of all creation.
It's the same thing, obviously, in Genesis. God created everything. He's like, you know, created the oceans. Oh, it's good. Created the animals. It's good. But when he created human, he's like, very good.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, mwah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And at this time, Islamic perspective, the devil was actually the best creation out of what is called the jinn, which is something I was going to tell you about earlier because you love all that paranormal stuff and all that. But anyways, that's
he was like an angel.
Yeah, well, he was the best out of his species, and in like ghosts and stuff like that. All of that is 100% real, but we don't call it ghosts. That's more like the Western way of like what they call them.
It's just like what spirits in another.
Like they're all it's another
realm.
It's a plane that's here. It's for real. It's here.
It's like
but
we just don't have the sense to see it.
Actually, you'll be surprised. Some people really do see them.
Actually, I knew someone that's seen ghosts before. Yeah.
I had 3 experiences myself in South Africa with the jinn.
Yeah.
Because they're around these very holy places, man. That's why sometimes in these old churchy places you get these really weird spiritual paranormal experiences. Because they're also some of them are Christians, some of them are Buddhists. Like there's a whole deep dive of what these things are. Like alhamdulillah. So it's like the devil, his name in Islamic perspective, his name was Iblis. He was the best out of that. Actually, he was very loyal to God, actually, out of all of them. And they're created as mischievous by nature, but this one was like the illest one. And God was so pleased with him, he actually brought him up to kick it with the angels. But God knew what he was doing. Imagine a species that was mischievous. They have a little bit of an arrogance. What are you talking about? You saying I'm the chosen one? Imagine if like God came and said, hey, guess what? You get to kick it with us over here just because I love you so much. You're going to be up there like, oh no, be like, I'm
the shit.
I'm that, right?
Yeah.
But when God created the human, he showed Adam, he actually asked all of the angels to prostrate to Adam, not to worship this creation, but to worship God in the fact that this was done. You know what I mean? Like to respect the creation, to respect it. It has nothing to do with worshiping it. Every angel bowed except for Iblis. This jinn was signing up like this. God's like, yo, why didn't you? What's going on? Like, you're not gonna bow down this? He's like, yo, I can melt him. I'm made out of fire. He's made out of clay. How is he better? How is he better than me? This is when God's like, man, like you gotta go. Like now because of this you get this punishment. But God is so merciful. Iblis made a prayer in that moment. He said, from this moment on, I'm going to do everything I can to lead all the sons and daughters of Adam astray. God said, no stress. I accept your prayer. That's the wild part about the story is I accept your prayer. However, the moment that any one of them turn back to me, I will 100% accept them no matter what. This created this new world. So in this world, we are hit with the power of God will always overcome every negative energy no matter what. The moment you want to use your consciousness, you will tap into something higher. That's the natural order of things. But if you want to stop using your consciousness and you want to lay back and let the feelings inside you and like you said, your flesh do whatever it's going to do, this is the other energies taking you. And that's the battle of this life. The battle of this life is good and evil fighting for you. You're very valuable. Like humans, we're very valuable. We have the potential to do very amazing things. And evil is such an easy thing to lay back into. It is like a comfortable sofa because you have to literally do nothing. I mean, gluttony is one of the sins.
Yeah, it's just
And sloth, like sloth is one of the seven deadly sins. Like sloth is like, you know how like you don't have to get up out of bed if you don't want to. You can sit on your couch all day if you want to,
Yeah,
and
like,
it feels great. Yeah, it's like, oh, dude, it feels amazing.
yeah.
But there's a reason why. That's one of the 7 deadly sins, is because you're not using your consciousness in this moment.
Well, you have what, 7 deadly sins in your book?
Yeah, we have the 7 deadly sins. Is like they're all there in our thing
Okay.
as well. They're not like
It's actually not in the Bible, but it's just a cultural.
oh, for real, eh?
Yeah, it's actually there's nothing that says the 7 deadly sins.
So, oh, that's pretty cool. So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But in Islam, like these sins of these, yeah, they're like, and lust is considered the mother of all of them, the mother of all of
yeah,
them.
lust
Yeah,
at the top,
yeah,
of course. Yeah. Of course, like idleness and shit is like it is a sin.
Yeah.
But I know like the term 7 deadly sins isn't actually like biblical.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All I know is that those 7, they have big play in the human.
And those are daily battle, man.
architect.
It's a daily battle to not procrastinate and be idle and get lazy.
Always.
You know what I'm saying? Like that
Always.
shit just. That's why I try to just do a lot, or else I'll just get into sloth mode. It just naturally happens to me. I would get comfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's every human being deals with it, and if you do not have a healthy practice of tapping out of it, one thing I admire about how you do, it seems like you were able to overcome a lot of those desires pretty easily when you said I want to make the switch to eating healthy food.
It was.
It didn't seem like it was too much of a uphill battle for you.
No, it wasn't. And that was
That's
the
really-
craziest
that's
part.
really
is,
blessed, man.
Is a couple years after, I'm like, yo, did I really just do that all by
Bro, that's
myself?
crazy. For me, it's hard, bro. For me, a lot of things is very hard. I ain't gonna
But
lie.
the
Like,
thing is, like, that's where I was like, I had to check myself though, because I was like, it was very easy. Like when I decided to just quit porn, when celibacy, every homie was like, you crazy. I was like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm just not gonna have sex anymore. And they're like, that's crazy. You know, I just did it. Changed the way I eat. And a couple years later, I was sitting there, I was like, did I really just do that by myself?
see, like for me, I disciplined myself for like a couple years before meeting my wife as well. But like it was hard. I have my whole journey is like 10 steps forward, 4 steps back, 6 steps forward, 2 steps back, 7 steps forward, 12 steps back.
Yeah, for me, it was just
That's me right there.
yeah, but I don't give myself all the credit. You know, to me, it's God, and actually, to be honest, it's just Jesus' teachings that led me the way for that. And I was just like, I think it's my relationship with Jesus, that because I was like, a couple years later, I'm like, there's no way that I was like, dude, I'll be honest, bro. Like, I was in a toxic place because I came out of a toxic relationship. I was doing wild shit. I was just living a different life.
I hear you.
I was killing things though, but I'm just doing wild.
I know. I feel you. I
Doing
feel you.
wild
I
things.
hear
And
you,
then
bro.
out of nowhere, oh, I'm just gonna change today, and just boom.
That's really
like a new light.
Bro, that's really blessed that you was able to. I'm telling you right now, that is not as common as you think. I'll be real with you.
No, I know.
It's not as common as you think. And for someone like me, that's like a dream I have. Like whatever that is, to like just be like, you know what, I'm gonna be this now, and I can just be it. No,
But
no. For
I
me,
don't
it's
even
like,
think it was me. I think it was a gift. Like I think God was really like, because it was just too easy. I shouldn't have had the strength to just do it. Because I was swimming in different things. I was drinking. Like when I would go out, I would drink heavy. Was I still smoking? I was probably still smoking. My girlfriend at the time was not like someone I should have been with, and like we were wilding out doing things, and it was literally a decision. I remember I was walking up this hill. Everything crumbled in my life. Like every single thing crumbled. And I was walking up this big ass hill, and I'm listening to like a Bob Marley song. And in the song, he just says, Rastaman, don't give up. You know, just live up. And I don't know why. I was just like, yo, I'm going to live. Like, I'm not giving up. And from that moment, everything just transformed, right? And at that point, again, I didn't know like what God was or anything like that. Well, at least led me to like go read the Bible was just reggae, right?
oh, big facts, man.
Because I didn't know growing up that like all these songs I loved had biblical roots.
inspiration.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh,
yeah,
Bob
yeah.
is like really in the Bible. That's
Bob
crazy.
Bob was a very
Yeah.
Christian like man. He was. His lyrics were very based on things
Yeah.
that we get from scripture.
A lot of stuff was from
Absolutely.
scripture, but I get the Rastafari movement was really just big on like, you know, black liberation.
Yeah.
So it was more focused on, obviously, like nobody likes the image of like a white Jesus. It just you know, it just doesn't even look right. But when I learned that all that was just coming from like a lot of biblical roots and these stories, and just the prophets and stuff, because I didn't have knowledge of that. I didn't know who Abraham was. I didn't know who Moses was, all these people. And when I became knowledge of that, and now I'm listening back to songs, I'm like, oh, this is what he was talking about, or this is what Peter Tosh was talking about, or this is what this guy was talking about. I'm like, crazy. So I dove in through that way. And then it just led me to like learn more. And then after, when I'm reading in the Old Testament and I'm reading like the concept of forgiveness first and then given a new spirit, I felt like that's what I was given. I felt like God, it's almost like I asked for forgiveness and God gave me a new spirit out of his grace, but said also like, I expect things of you. Like, I think I get judged a little harder because I think God has put me in a position at times where like he's made things so easy. And like, if I step out of line, it's almost like he corrects me right away. Like, don't forget about this gift I gave you, because out of nowhere I gave you this new spirit. And it's like I led you, and like you had the thirst for truth, and I showed you who I am. But I try, because sometimes when people ask me like, yo, how did you do certain things? I'm like, man, I wish I could really just give you like some practical ABC 1, 2, 3 tools.
For sure.
But like, it was easy for me. It really was. I didn't struggle. Like, I just did it.
Yeah, that's very blessed. That's very, very blessed.
Yeah.
And we always give thanks for that. Like, I give thanks to the Most High for you, because that is, that lets us know that it can be a thing. You know what I mean?
It can be a thing.
It
Yeah.
can be a thing. A lot of people, I know for a fact that a lot of people for depending on, I guess, kind of like it's more so of what they're involved in the things that they do, because you cannot be surprised like, why am I not motivated, or why can I like not feel good? And then just because like you eat like potato chips like all the time, like you can't lie to yourself like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, what you're involved in spiritually, like it will affect the way that you can make decisions like this. You know what I mean? Like,
well, like, even in the Old Testament, like, they go through like, they have like food laws and things like that to like purify themselves. And I kind of feel like I went through that myself. I didn't have like someone tell me not what to eat, but I went through this thing where something was telling me what to eat and what not to eat, and just like bound by it. And I don't think like, at the end of the day, I just think that was like me learning discipline, right? Like I learned a lot of discipline through just like, not being gluttonous. I used to just eat like whatever, bro, because I've always had a high metabolism. Food never had an effect on me.
Bro.
Run that double quarter pounder with cheese with large fries. Like, run it.
Word. Yeah, I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? Run it. And then I just went out of nowhere and switched it up and started eating better.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that's amazing.
But now I give myself the grace to like, have some ice cream and stuff, So,
yeah, I feel, of course, yeah, because you got that practice down to the point where you know when you can step out of it a little bit.
But certain things like that, I realized are kind of easy. Like even, when I met my woman and I realized, I was like, yo, even though I have like sexual discipline, I still be on the gram like liking things, like, oh, does shorty look bad? Boom, like. And then when I got with her, I'm like, I'm not liking nothing. And that wasn't like, I had like a habit of just liking things.
Yeah.
But once I made the decision, boom, done. It's just done.
Yeah.
And when I talk about it, people get mad at me because they're just like, well, no, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like,
yo, but no, because
I actually take that from Jesus's advice that like, don't commit adultery, but even if you just lustfully at a woman, you've already committed. And I understand that, like, you plant a seed in your heart, and something may not manifest in that moment, but you're planting those seeds, and over time, who knows what that's going to do to your heart, your spirit, and one day maybe you stumble. So let me just, be aware and alert on that. So I really work on that. I really think there's power to that. And some people will think that's regressive and that's extreme, but I'm like,
no, that's a clean heart.
That's a clean heart.
Yeah, that's keeping the heart
clean.
To
like society and like unbelievers, they think it's regressive. Like,
yes.
People will tell me I'm very regressive sometimes on YouTube when it comes to like my sexual discipline rules and just the way I speak like that, which is not even my teachings. It's actually Jesus' teachings, right? But to them, they're like, that's so regressive. And I'm like, well, now you may know why you struggle so much though. Like, you're not even trying to get to the root of it.
Yeah, there's a difference between culture and tradition. Once you learn the value of traditional teachings versus cultural teachings, you realize that like we as human beings have fallen way off of the Richter, bro. Like main society. Yeah, but to be honest, they form the influence on this side of the world is as such. Like for example, like when you like Lord willing, inshallah, when you get to South Africa and you see when you see the way these people move, like Christians and Muslims alike, like when you see the way that they move and how they are, like. It's because they are not dealing with an entire advertising marketing scheme to plant into their brains 24/7.
I watched a South African show on Netflix,
yeah,
and I was so not amazed. I was so shocked at how it's imitating our media, like just with the ideologies of gender and sexuality and everything. was so apparent in this show. And this is a big South African show. It's not one of my favorite shows. I love it.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
crazy, but they're wilding in this show.
Word,
They're
word.
wilding in this show.
I know the youth is very, very, very inspired by over here. Like I'll never forget when I first landed in Joburg and I came out of the airport, and the first thing you see is this huge Netflix billboard and like all of these billboards from movies coming down. I'm like, I just feel like I just literally drove into like out of YVR. Like I'm just like back at home. Like
Right.
And
Well,
I'm
America's such like, its culture is potent.
it comes, right? Like it comes and it does that. But when we're talking about like, okay, you get into particular communities, like for example, like your community, whether it's your family or like, whatever small circle that you have, when these beliefs are like potent in that circle, you know what I mean? And so when you have potency in these beliefs, you do have a nice little shield of protection with regards to what can come in, you know what I mean? And that's why we keep the home is like, we keep that as a specific type of energy. We don't let too many things enter our home, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even like, the contents that come through the television, like we only let a certain type of content come into the house because we just don't need any of these other like influences
These
that don't do
energies,
with
yeah.
our belief systems, right?
Right.
And it's like over there when you find those communities, oh man, it's just because already they're not overtaken by it to the point where it's like everywhere around it like how it is here. Dude, it's
It's proper.
that's why I'm going back there to study.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like there's certain things that books can't teach. Real talk.
Oh, you
There's
need
certain things,
experience,
like to go to a place like Africa and learn versus go to even a place like Mecca, Medina, for example.
Okay.
Like for example,
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, they could say, why don't you like people always like, why don't you go to like Mecca, Medina? That's like
That's
the hub.
the hub, right?
That's the hub. Like,
yeah.
but you don't get the poverty aspect of things over there. You don't get the poverty aspect.
Right,
And if you look at who Jesus was helping out the most, who's helping out the most, man?
Yeah.
It's poor people.
Those
you know
who
what I mean?
needed it, yeah.
Yeah, the poverty aspect.
Yeah.
And like you get to practice giving way more in these places, and the more and the more you can let go of this aspect of having possessions, because at the end of the day, everybody when they pass away, they take nothing with them in their grave. It's just their body.
Yeah, of course.
So if you can practice not owning things more before that point happens, you also get closer to the point of what you are. So like some of the best theological scholars in Islam period, they came from South Africa. Yeah, so they a lot of our best scholars, they came from South Africa. My teachers here, I didn't really know South Africa like that, but my teachers here, my sheikhs here, one is from Botswana and one is from Algeria. That's not in South Africa. That's a little bit like up, like closer
north.
to a little bit north. But Africa, bro, like something about brothers that came from this side of the world. It is just it's the truth. Like it's the truancy of it. And it's like like this is where you go to seek this particular type of knowledge and see these particular type of things. Like, go look at how people believe when they truly don't have anything at all, and look at what that type of faith is.
Yeah.
And so when you bring that back here, it's like when you come back here after experiencing all of that, you start to realize like,
because people here, I feel like think God is just in the business of like blessings. Like they want to believe because it's like they want like an abundant lifestyle, but not even like abundance in your spirit, like like those inner treasures. It's actually like they want the things,
that's all bro. And
a lot of people teach like a prosperity teaching like that.
It's an exchange service. It's like, hey, you don't exist if I don't get the things I want. When I get the things I want, I forgot that you exist.
Yeah.
Yo, God, I really need, this thing to happen. And let's say you really get that blessing, then you completely forget that, like, that you were praying for it in the first place, that, like, it was God that did it for you. You start to go upon, like, yeah, I worked really hard for that, man. I worked really hard for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a curse from the Most High. Because the Most High says that I will give you things because they will lead you astray.
It's funny. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's also, in the Bible, it's like sometimes like all that money could be a curse for people.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what
meant
I'm
to
saying?
keep you over there.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to be like that? All right, go ahead, be like that.
Yeah.
That's fine. You ain't tricking me. It's my plan.
Unless you like, you got the right heart, you learn how to steward it, take care of others, help others, and you're not trying to store up treasures for yourself. Because like you said, when we pass, you're not taking it with you.
Yeah. But I also
that's
like
gonna rust
I encourage like anybody who practices like any of these, the like seek truth. First and foremost is always seek truth, right? And yes,
Yeah.
always ask questions, and always understand that not everybody is like actually qualified to speak on some of these things. These are very sensitive. These are all very, very, very sensitive things to speak about. And the only reason why some of us are confident to speak on is because we've done that research. But one thing that is sound. I always encourage everybody to go find those people that have studied these things for like decades. Like there are theological scholars like out here, and I never was the type of, I never was like a an academic before. I was always very creative. But more so
Yeah.
recently in the last 3 years, I have a lot of love for the academia part of things with regards to not just theology, but I'm very much into like the aspect of architecture now, and I love horticulture now. I love economic, like yeah, economy. Like I love this aspect of economy now. Like
I think it's good that you go into that now, like when you already kind of have a faith-based system and outlook. Because sometimes what I find is some people are so rooted in academia, it's almost like their mind is too logical to become
Yeah.
faith-based. You know what I'm saying?
of course,
And
yeah,
like,
because you're actually
so you're too smart for your own good to God to even come into the equation and talk to you.
the thing with secular education that actually takes things away from the spiritual aspect of things, because like I ain't going front like and this always ruffles the feathers of a lot of people, but the thing is secularism, like it does take away spirituality when you get too far into it, because you start to see everything for what it is. Like for example, like we have a pillow here. If I look at this pillow and I had like a lot of knowledge on like the threading of it, but also where that material came from and the plant it came from and so on and so forth. Yeah, bro, it becomes so actualized that you forget that like, hey, who provided the water for that
Right.
plant to grow in the first
Right.
place?
The
Also,
material first.
also think about the way that all of that formed inside of it, first for you to get the threading and so on and so forth, or whatever it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you forget there's this beauty in the fact that it was created. Like, yes, you can make an intention, a sincere intention, and have it be very, very strong, very great. That's like planting a seed. But the nutrients in the soil and the watering and the actual growth of that plant, that's God, yo. That's not you. That's God. You can plant the seed.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like naturally what I look at, because I don't have an academia background like that.
No.
But that's what I see things for what it is. And I've noticed some people, I'm like, you're almost too smart for your own good. Too smart in like the logical sense in our world philosophies, you know?
Yeah, there's always this, and even in Islam, it's forbidden to be in worship 24/7. You're not allowed, because you're supposed to go live your life.
Well, real experience.
You're supposed to go live. If you do not live, you will not know the benefits of this knowledge. Also, the most beneficial person is those who is a benefit for others. You're supposed to take this knowledge.
And yeah,
You're
spread
supposed to
it.
go spread it. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to keep any of it for
Illuminate it.
yourself. There was it was very blessed. Flying back from Toronto and getting the visa accepted, I booked a last minute flight back home. Like I literally booked at 8 p.m. I flew back 9 a.m. like the next morning. And I remember when I picked my seats, I just picked a really empty little area in the front of the plane. Like nobody was in front of me, behind me, even beside me. It was a nice little area by the window seat. All right, cool. Or by the window, rather. Now I get on this plane, and then I see this like older man. He comes and he sits down, and I could tell like, okay, this brother, Indian brother. Okay, okay, pretty cool. I'm sleeping through the flight for like majority of it, but when I wake up, I see that he's reading a like an Arabic book. So I'm like, oh, this brother's a Muslim. That's pretty fly. Hey, what's going on? Assalamu alaikum. What I got through, brother. How are you? He's like, wa alaikum assalam. I'm doing. How are you? I said, brother, what is this kitab you're reading? This book. What is this book you're reading? He's like, oh, this is a book on particular like individuals. They call them mashayikh, but individuals who like have this knowledge, and they went and they would preach it in certain things. And he was just getting some game. I said, are you Maulana? Maulana is like a qualified scholar in Islam. Are you a Maulana? He's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But then he's like, yeah, I finished everything at 18. I was like, that's really crazy. Because it takes like 3 years to memorize the Quran, and then it takes like 6 to 7 years to get the entirety of the thing down. So you're telling me you started this when you were like 5 years old or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, and he told me something so real. He's like, he's like, it happened too fast. He's like, it all happened a little bit too fast. And he's like, I don't think I knew what was going on. Because he's a kid, yo. He's a kid.
He's supposed to be a kid.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, to be honest with you, like I can tell you about like these lines in the Quran and particular aspects of the hadith, which is like, you know, all of the written footnotes by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions. I could tell you all of that, but he's like, I didn't feel the sweetness of what this is until I actually started to go into the world and give this out.
And just live.
And yeah, exactly. But one thing he said was so cool. He's just like, you know, I have many degrees in social sciences. He's got like a PhD in this. He's got like a master's in this. He has a this. And he's like in his late 50s now. And he's like, and all my kids, yes, I have 3 kids. They all have PhDs in social sciences and all these things. And he's like, I realized that if you do not go explore into the world things that you want to know, you will not know what questions you want to ask to God. By going out and learning about psychology and philosophy and economy, he learned what to look for in these books, these scripture books, to find those sources, to then know what to ask for God at the end of the day. And he said, when you have, like, you know, when you go and do this journey, because I told him, like, I'm about to go embark on what he did when he was a kid. Like, I'm about to actually start mine at my age. He's like, this thing fortifies the mind to learn, basically. Like, you know, aside from having the, you know, yes, the Quran and the Hadith, and be able to tell the community if they have questions, I can answer there for them and find the authentic sources to show that, okay, this is what this means, so on and so forth. What it does for the human being is it fortifies them to seek and gain knowledge. That's all it is. It's like a fortification of the mind to just intake and learn. Like, books have to be my friends, but I'm a visual guy. So, like, I'm training myself at the moment to, like, you know, try to get very much into books, which is, like, it's new, but alhamdulillah, you know. And I remember one time you said that you didn't read that much either, but you read the Bible as like a book you go back to all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like reading too many books.
Yeah, but it's funny how the one book that you have in your life is actually one of the most. It's like the most important in the aspect of what you do. You know what I mean?
I made actually the conscious decision. I'm like, you know, I go on YouTube and, like, you know, people do like book recommendations and, like, people like read 2 books a week, and I'm like, there's no way you're retaining all that information and, like, memorizing it and, like, actually actualizing it. To me, I feel like a lot of people are speed reading books, especially in the culture, and like, oh yeah, I read that book. And I'm like, if there's anything I want to read and really just get to know, I'm gonna simplify. You know, something else sparks my interest, of course, I'm gonna go read it, I'm gonna go dive into it. But I'm not into the culture of just, like, reading, like, tons and tons and tons of books. Yeah, especially just the way my mind works. Maybe there's like
I'll tell you right now, there are actual professors, and it takes them maybe 3 weeks to read a particular humble size, but there isn't 100% way of learning how to read and attaining particular things. And even, like, there's a whole thing on how to read a book. And these are for, like, very professional academics, like, you know, professors. And I know the brother who owns Zaytuna College in Berkeley. I don't know him personally, but he's a theological scholar who is just, like, incredible. He was a born Christian, actually, and then he accepted Islam with regards to how much Islam talks about death and what happens after you die, because he had a near-death experience. That was his personal experience with his life, right?
Near-death experience, yeah.
But his knowledge on Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism.
Yeah, to me, like, those are, like, in the same realm, right? Like, it's like,
there's, like, 9 major religions, and he actually put a lecture out recently that was really incredible, where he showed the link, how one God revealed all of these to the many people. And it's like, religions is like flowers, bro.
So he's saying, like, the same God revealed Krishna to the world?
Like, he shows how, like, at one point, all of these religions that, even with Hinduism, where, like, now they worship many different entities in it, but he shows the true history of how all of these are once monotheistic. And only through time, human beings, we split them up. Like, we do that. Like, we do that. We like, the flaw of the human being is we change things. Like, Christianity, true Christianity in itself, in the time of Jesus, like, it's perfect. Like, it's perfect. Same with Islam and Judaism. Like, it's perfect. The idea, just right here, floating as the thing, as the thing itself, it's perfect. But the moment you take that thing and you attach it to a human being who is flawed, and they start spitting it out of themselves because they're flawed, this thing, they muddy this up. But that doesn't mean that this thing is flawed. That means the person is flawed. That's all that it means. So when these people do these real research, and they have to be very sincere about it, you know what I mean? Like that, yes, like I think the human heart will be able to pick up somebody who's like, you know, they're just preaching and they're not really, you know, they have ulterior motives and stuff like that. And that's a lot of reason why like a lot of the generations have like left the aspect of believing in God, is because they got uninspired by people. They didn't get uninspired by God, bro. They got uninspired by people.
Yeah, by people. And I think they're not seeking themselves either. Like they're relying on other
Sometimes
people.
you'll be surprised. I ain't go front, like, you know, like you know how you said you're the only one in your family. It's like for me and my wife, we feel like we're the only ones in our family, but we know that like a lot of our family members, like they genuinely have a nature to want to know. Every human being, they actually do want to know what's the meaning of life. Like, why am I here? Like human beings, they have this is a very genuine question. All human beings have this within them. It is a small part of the naivety that exists within everybody, even as they're older and so on and so forth. It's until like they just start to claim like, you know what, I just don't believe in anything. I just believe I'm gonna die and then that's it, bro, or whatever. Like it's only until they get to that point, or maybe it's gone. But still, like you can see the glimmer in a lot of, mostly everybody. I'm not gonna lie, like you can find it within them because everyone is a spiritual being. They have a soul inside of them, so you can tap into them and find that small little glimmer. Like it's there.
I think everybody has it, but like I think you got to go deep. And a lot of people don't want to like narrow down. Like, let's say if you do follow a religion, most people don't want to do that because now you're basically saying, I believe in this one thing. This is the way of life for me. And that's like a very narrow path. And like, especially in just like, I say the culture now and the generation now, most people would be like, well, I'd rather be open spiritually because how am I supposed to really know if Hinduism is true, if Buddhism is true, or if this is true? What if I just kind of subscribe to everything, right? And I think if you're going to go deeper, you're going to come closer to the truth. And I think people who subscribe to everything just as like an open blanket, I think it's more of a surface level search. Yeah. In my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the truth, there's only one, there is really only like everybody has their thing that gives them purpose in life. This is where that's where it's versatile.
And you'll find value in everything, of course. You know what I'm saying? Like even like to me in the beginning, like Buddhism was attractive just because
meditation is attractive.
Meditation is attractive, and the idea of like oneness and just you know calming your mind. But then I just didn't see an actual pathway to like life and salvation and like fruitfulness through just being like Buddhism. Yeah. A lot of them, you know, live in a monastery and like exclude themselves from society, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like a subscription for everybody. So I was like, okay, let me continue, right? And I just think again, like I think if you seek, you shall find.
Yeah, and it's like you have to just be like very aware first and foremost. Like it's again like don't close off all your gates. Like for example, like when we hear that like the Prophet Muhammad is mentioned in aspects of Christianity, first of all we're curious and we want to know, but also we do not.
But when I say this again, when I hear people say that, I also notice some people will say that without reading the gospel.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Now the next step is obviously go research it. That was my next point.
Yeah.
We don't say that. Like, see, this is also because there's a very disgusting, weird culture of debating.
Oh, I see it everywhere.
Oh, dude, it's really gross, man. And I know, like Peterson interviews like people of different sides of that spectrum. Like I know he interviewed like a brother, one of the good brothers, Muhammad Hijab, and then he has.
I don't think like
brothers
with Peterson's still like almost like because of his like clinical psychology background, like he says like I believe in God because I think it's the best way to live your life. But he's still not really like, I wouldn't say he's a defender of the faith. So when he's speaking to Muslims, like even most Christians would say Peterson's like great, everyone loves like his talks and stuff, but like he's still, because he has such like a logical mind and he has to actualize everything.
Yeah, he's really smart like that.
Yeah, he's really smart, and I think it's actually good. I think God uses him like that for people who also have minds like that, right?
You'd be very surprised. Yeah, it's like, you know, sometimes like people are used just to inspire someone else. Like, and that's really the point of it. It's not even the point of that person getting the thing. It's like, this is the way, this is for that person to get that.
And that's
thing.
what I see with them, you know?
For example, I'll tell you one, like the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he who raised him and was there from his whole life, he never believed in his nephew as a prophet. He died as a disbeliever. He never believed in it. He never believed in it. Like how you're saying, like how Jesus was like, you know, like healing the blind and bringing people up back from the dead, and
but you're people in your own town, man, that don't believe.
Yeah, like they like people would see it and they would still shut it off, and this was that, and then why was that? And people ask, why is that? What's like, if that wasn't there, like the drive in the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him would not be in such a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we learned a lesson that even though he was praying for his uncle all the time, at the end of the day, it's God's decision who he chooses to be a part of this collective.
So yeah, so what do you think about like the debate culture then?
I'll be honest with you, bro. People, you can be really smart, but you can still be really insecure and kind of a cornball sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because you're smart and you went and learned something does not mean you have like good character.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, good character is one of the ways to attain the highest level of heaven in Islam. You don't have to know anything. Be a really good person. In fact, you know, people who study this thing for a long time, when they tell you, "Hey, can you tell me some of like the things I can take with me?" You know what it always is?
Simple.
Yo, don't judge people. Love always look with gratitude. Check on your neighbors. Are your neighbors okay? Like, when was the last time you checked on neighbor? Like, hey, you okay? Like, how is everything? Well, how do you know about their life? Do you know how many kids they have? Like, how their parents are doing? Like, this is all of good character. Hey, when you see someone who's having trouble, do you go help them?
Yeah, because sometimes when I see like people dedicating their life to creating debating content and like they become obviously like big culture religious wars, I'm like, you could actually just be using that time to help another brother out.
Yeah,
you could be,
you
know, giving to your neighbor.
And again, we don't know them like that.
We don't know what they're doing.
When you see some things, I'm like, yo, bro, you didn't have to do that, B. That's like, because here's the thing, right? If you represent this thing, and you're saying you learned so much, and this thing is telling you to emulate this prophet, whether it was Jesus, whether it was Muhammad, whether it was Moses,
what would they do?
And then you're acting like this. It's like you just showed me right in front of me that you are doing this because your ego got in the way. And for me, real talk, that's not at all why I want to do this, like at all. Like there's particular theological scholars, they don't do any of this stuff. In fact, they're never in front of cameras. The only way you can ever find them is when you go deep into these circles and you go and you're with them in these particular environments. And you only hear about them through word of mouth or through ear. And it's like when you sit with them and I mean, some, not all of them. Yes, there's some. Like there's a brother named Mufti Mank who's big for the Islamic and for the world. Actually, he actually helps a lot of people. He's like,
does he have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, he does.
Is it a big YouTube channel?
Big YouTube channel.
And is his thumbnails kind of like YouTube culture?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Everybody knows him because he's like really kind-hearted, but he's actually the epitome.
Seems like he has a comedic side.
Yeah, because he's just himself. Like he's the epitome of a person who understands that the character is the key.
Right.
Actually, the way Islam spread was not through it wasn't through like, you know, yes, the revelations that came, but it was the way that the Prophet, peace be upon him, connected with the hearts of the people. It was love. It was like, hey, like I see you worshiping this like rock, but like, you know, this thing can like you created it with your own hands. You know what I mean? Like, you know what, like this is what God is. It was just telling them what God is. It had nothing to do with religion. It had nothing to do with religion. It was like, this is actually like what this is. And he was always very kind.
Well, yeah, even in the Bible it says, you know, God's favorite religion is one where people take care of the fatherless and like the widows. And
the widows, and the divorcees.
You know,
we
like
have the same thing with us.
You know,
you
can banter about religion all day. But
see, this is the most amazing thing. These things we're speaking of, these are the core values that exist within all of the Abrahamic religions. Because there is, like they are of the same. But when you study history, and you really look at what humans have done, it's very unfortunate that many major rulers or kings or people of influence, but they had very much corruption inside of them. Even Islamic priests and Christian priests and so on and so forth. People who had a, like, you know.
Well, of course, that's why a lot of people have turned away from religion.
Yeah,
you know?
so it's
and
like,
it's hard to even like heal that.
So it's imagine being a person who wants to learn, and then you learn that all your teachers do not at all abide by the true aspect of the thing. This will destroy a person. Straight up, like this will destroy a person. It's like if you've always wanted to meet like one of your, like, you know.
Oh, I've done it, bro. I've met. They say don't meet your heroes.
And then you meet your heroes, and they're just like, you just turn you off completely.
Yeah, bro. I've been scammed by one of my people I look up to. Yeah,
bro. See how that makes you never Yeah, it's very unfortunate, man. That's very unfortunate. Like that makes you like look at things like then what really is like what was that? You know what I mean? And it's like this is this is what's so beautiful about the Most High. It's like that's why your connection with the Most High, you can have it without knowing what is within these books. It's like you can have it because you exist, because you are a creation. If you tap into these things, which is really like, yes, discipline, integrity, what you believe in, and doing good, doing a lot of good, acting on good, even making sincere intentions, you'll see yourself rise to a particular place amongst your own life. And if you are guided towards the scripture, if you're guided towards particular words and certain things, and that's...
But what does the Quran say when it comes to when one passes? Like, let's say you have an unbeliever who, you know, is doing what you're saying right now, you know, like, you know, having a relationship with God, what they deem to be God, and, you know, they're doing good. What does the Quran say about them in the afterlife? Where are they going? Because I'm sure, do unbelievers go to hell?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll
Same
give you
with the Bible.
Yeah, so I can't I have to give you just the straight up answer.
Yeah,
I cannot
of
give you
course.
the finesse like, you know, like the
no, that's why.
yeah, we're not gonna do any of that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
We ain't gonna do any of that.
yeah. Because same with the Bible.
So if you didn't believe in Allah, then that already is not. That's not a good sign for you after the fact. You believed in God though. Then what was God to you? Was God one God? Was it many gods? It was something like that. So
well, let's like think about just like the common, how people in the common culture right now think of God, like as in they believe it's a one God, but you know, like the universe, and it's their own relationship with God that they determine what that is. Because I think that the beautiful thing about scriptures is like you can kind of dive in and you almost get to know the character of God and the personality of God on like a personal level, that you can still get to know God like that on your own. But there's certain things that I think that you kind of starting to create who God is. Like many people will say, well, you know, God approves of what I do in my lifestyle, even though it's probably like a sin or something. God doesn't approve. But because they've created God in their own relationship just by themselves, they're like, this is approved. And obviously that is the difference between spiritual, like, I guess, I'm not gonna say spirituality because religion is spirituality, but like new age spirituality versus like, let's say the Abrahamic religions. I don't know even much more about Judaism. I think they still believe in hell, of course.
There's heaven and hell. So in Islam, people who are not Muslim will be asked, did a Muslim not come up to you and tell you about me? About God.
And then if you said, obviously,
if you said yes, they did, but I didn't listen, then yeah, that's then you don't go. Here's the thing: God is the only one who can, off of His own, just be like, no, I liked you. Go to heaven. In the Quran, in the Quran, there's a story of a non-Muslim prostitute who finished her shifts. She went out at night. She saw a dog really thirsty. She took off her boot. She went to a well, got some water, gave that dog water, continued to do her thing and live her life.
Yeah.
But that act was so beloved by Allah, He said, I don't care. He put her in heaven. We have stories like this. One of the other stories is a hadith, actually. There was a man who his desire, his naf, was he couldn't stop killing people. You know, non-Muslim as well, killing people. But he felt very messed up. He's like, I want to stop killing people. He went into this land and he said, appoint me to like, who's the smartest here? He said, can I be forgiven for like what I'm doing? The guy's like, no. Okay, he killed him too. He murked him.
He got crazy.
Murked him. And so now his body count was 100. He got 100 bodies on him. He asked the next person, like, yo, bring me to whoever's the smartest in this land. Ends up to be a scholar or a Muslim man of faith. And he said, yes, you can, but you have to go to this land, like across the desert. And you'll find these people who are worshiping Allah. If you go over there, like worshiping God, if you go over there, you will find your answer. The guy goes, no stress. As he's crossing the desert, he actually dies. He dies crossing the desert. So two angels come, one to bring him into heaven, one to bring him into hell. The one that wants to bring him into heaven is like, but he wanted to change his intention.
Yeah, like he was on his way.
Yeah, he was on his way to fix himself. The other one was like, no, like he didn't even change. Like he has all of this on him.
But his heart was like in the direction of I'm trying to go that way.
Exactly. But this was the argument between the two. So then what happens? Allah, he's hearing this. He hears what's going on, and he says, whichever land he is closer to, that's where he will go. If he's closer to the one he was going to, he will go to heaven. If he's closer to the one where he came from, he'll go to hell. And then when that judgment was made, God actually moved the land a little bit like this so that he could be closer to the one he was going to, and he was accepted.
Right.
So this is Allah, bro. This is Allah. This is the mercy of God, right? So to answer your question originally, minusing the grace and the mercy and all that, and just the footnote, if you didn't have this aspect of salah in your life, this prayer, these 5 daily prayers, the testification that there's only one God and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his last and final messenger, then yeah, you're considered a non-believer, in which case you go to hell. That's the aspect of it.
What did you say, the 5, what?
The 5 daily prayers, the salah.
Oh.
Yeah, salah, the 5 daily prayers.
What else is in that?
Oh,
just the belief in the 5 daily prayers.
The testimony of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is there's only one God, Allah. I bear witness that there's only one God, and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his messenger. This is a testification. And what we love about like our Christian brothers and sisters, Islam has like the pure Christianity in it, like inside the Quran, like Christianity, like one thing we can say is like there's many books to the Christianity religion. There's many different books, and I know they're all like the companions' perspectives on like what happened when they were around Jesus. The disciples of Jesus have their own books and all these perspectives, but like the Quran has it's only one book, and the amount of detail of Jesus alone in the Quran was almost a mercy for our Christian brothers. It's a mercy for our Christian brothers and sisters, because it's like, if you want to get to know Jesus and Mary, specifically Jesus and Mary, not from the perspective of the disciples, but from God himself.
Right. But that's where I think the agreement's not going to come, because you'll have Christians who say, well, if I want to get to know Jesus, I'm going to get to know him through his word and through the disciples that were traveling with him. Christians don't believe that the revelation in the Quran is from the same God. Do you know what I mean?
Keep going.
So like, I guess in the gospel, you have John, Mark, Luke, all these people. These are people that were with Jesus. Just like, if you wanted to, like, if I was talking to you on the phone and you're like, what is Gazelle like? I could tell you what Gazelle's like. I spend time with her every day, so. And
that's true. And then what you're talking about is 100% the fact.
Right. So that's why that's why there's like, I don't know, maybe there's 4 testaments. You have 4 testaments of Jesus' story, the people that are with them, and the similarities because they're like they were with him. These are the people he chose also to spread his gospel. He said, "You are the ones that are going to teach my message."
Yeah.
He said, he's like, "You guys are fishermen, but I'll make you fisher of men."
Yeah. So then we take that, but then we also have to consider the true fact, my brother, that in history, folks went ahead, and they kind of like they did things with these books. What I mean?
Right, but again, this is where you're always going to have the disagreement, right? Because for people will say, well, why do I have to believe in the Quran? Because it came 600 years after, thousands of years after the Old Testament, and through one person. So people say, what is the validity in that? That's what people say. And then Muslims say, well, it is the Quran in itself, right? The Quran is the validity in that. But for a lot of people, that doesn't seem valid to them, because they're like, well, why, when it's already, the revelations were already given?
And to those people,
God wills everything, right? So it's like, so did God purposely God allowed people.
Well, yeah, because to be honest,
allowed
you could
people
say
to misconstrue
you could say that
things.
like the Jewish people feel the same way about Christianity. It's like they feel like, oh, well, why do we have to believe in this? It came like way after we're like really old. But then the Hindus feel the same
Right.
way. They go, well, we was like 5,000 years before
Well, the
that.
New Testament and the Old Testament, like before I read the Bible, I thought the New Testament was a new book written of the Old Testament, when really all the prophets in the Old Testament are prophesying of what's to come, and then Jesus fulfills those prophecies. Like the book of Isaiah is just filled with prophecies that Jesus fulfills. You know, there will be one that comes, you know, born of a virgin mother. Boom, Jesus comes. You know, it's all these prophecies. So it's not like a rewritten book. It's actually just the continuation of the story of Jesus fulfilling what they're talking about.
Yeah, and
in the Old Testament.
And the ill part about the Quran is it is also the continuation of Christianity. Like Quran is just continuation.
Right. But then people
of
say, why
Christianity.
wasn't it put with the Bible then? You know, like how like the New Testament is with the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't the Quran put with it? Why was it put in its own book, and then the Quran approves of it, but then also says, you know, it's hard to say, because it's like the Quran says, okay, it's a continuation, and yes, we love it, but then there's things with it that's wrong. So it's just like, it gets messy for people who aren't believers of Islam to trust that, especially when you have revelations in the Bible like Galatians 1:8 and a couple other ones saying, if anyone comes and preaches a different gospel than the one we are preaching you right now, then that, or even an angel, right? That is the big one, right? Christians will say, well, in the Bible it says, even if an angel comes in the future and speaks and says, hey, this is, and it's contrary to what Jesus is saying or what the gospel is saying, do not follow that. Right. So that's why I don't think there's ever going to be an agreement.
Yeah,
It's just not.
Yeah, that's and again, and to be honest, there's like this whole thing of the unity aspect, like the whole world's under one umbrella.
Yeah.
This is actually not the purpose of this life at all.
No.
Because how are you going to learn about each other if you're all the same?
Of course.
That's like the beauty of learning about people. You know what I mean?
And cultures and different
exactly,
races
and
stuff.
that's the point of it actually.
Yeah.
And again, it's very right for someone to say, "Yo, who says that there's one?" Like, "Yo, that's okay." Like, you know, the point isn't to have everybody look at this thing and say, "Oh, I want to be like Muslim now." Like, that's not the point of it. It's just like, if my book is saying, let them be. Like, if they want to believe in this and they want to live their life.
But I guess
do
the
not
problem,
judge them. Like,
I guess for the problem is that I'm just going to go for like non-believers of like both books is both beliefs also say the vast majority of people who do not believe will not be with me for everlasting life.
yeah, some of these things, some of these things I ain't gonna front.
They're hard.
It's a hard truth to hear. Like for a Muslim,
That's why I feel like
for me to tell people I love, hey, you're not Muslim, so guess what? My book says that you're not gonna go to heaven.
Yeah, it's of course.
It's difficult, but then do you know what the solution to that is?
Yeah.
The solution to that is, well, Isaac, who says you're gonna go into heaven?
At the end of the day, we don't make that judgment. None of us.
It's like, yo, Isaac, who says you gonna, you know what I mean?
even
who says you did enough learning and worshiping to even.
But that's the difference. So that's why in the Christian faith there's no enough. There's no such thing as work-based salvation. Right. Salvation is purely in true belief, and that's why Jesus said something about many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, but like I prophesied in your name. He's like, get away from me. I didn't know you. Like I didn't know you at the heart. You did actually create a relationship with me. You just did all these things that you thought I wanted you to do, and you thought that was your way in. And he's like, I don't know you.
Exactly.
I don't know you. And that's why I say, like on the Discord, you said this one word, go deep. And like I love that word. I ended up writing a whole thing off go deep because it's like go deep. You know,
amazing.
Like go seek out the character of God. Have that relationship. Go deep.
Go learn, yo.
Go learn. Go learn. You know, like to be honest, if you look, I have a Bible there. I also have the Bhagavad Gita. And I also have the Quran there.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
I do.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Right. I do.
That's amazing. See, because you want to go learn.
I just want to learn. I want to learn.
What I'm like, even for me, what I'm gonna do in school.
Yeah.
Like for example, in Islam, it's 100% forbidden. You cannot ever hate on anybody else's books. It's 100% no. You're not. Yes, you're not allowed to.
But
do
you
that.
do like obviously everyone is their own individuals. But you do have like a lot of YouTube channels from Muslim brothers,
and again,
who dedicate their channels to that.
These people is not following the guidance. I'll be honest with you. I'll be 100% honest.
That's why I say to you, like I love the way you move. You know, because it's like I feel like it's love.
Bro, me personally, okay, just like art, bringing it back all full circle. And I gotta go do my prayer anyways in a second here. So you know we're having a beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to the art. if you're lying to yourself as an artist, you're just lying to yourself, period.
Period, yeah.
If you're lying to yourself with regards to your relationship with God, that is a huge, huge lie that you're telling to yourself. And I know for an individual who has been blessed enough to go from being outside as a free spirit to now being in particular places like the mosque with an aligned spirit, like precision, laser point, you know, that's how it feels like, to be honest. Or just being with God. Let's just not even say the mosque. Let's just have a relationship with the Most High, right?
Yeah.
Because of how much success I've gained in knowing if you stay true to the art, you get the best out of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing from me with regards to this that says I'm going to change things here to make up for my lack of self.
Yeah.
I'm a sinner. Like, I'm the biggest sinner. Like, before I walk into the mosque, I have an entire, like, trunk full of sins I'm bringing with me inside this building.
Right. Yeah.
My job is to go inside, stand in front of the Most High as a complete, like, spiritually, like, broken person.
Right. Hungry.
Accept that I am that.
Yeah.
And accept that I am not at all any bigger, even when I am clean with regards to my sins. I'm not any bigger than these revelations, period.
Yeah.
Not even by one word, just zero. Like, there's nothing about me at all that will ever say I'm more than this. So if God says respect all of the books, if you start hearing me talk smack about any other book, I am now completely off of the Richter.
Right.
Just facts.
Because
that's what it says. That's what it says.
That's kind of like the command.
Do not backbite. Like, one of the biggest sins in Islam is backbiting.
What is that?
If I'm here talking to you, I'm showing you love, but then the moment I go back to my homies, I'm like, yo, Hindzs, man, he wasn't all that, man. I met this brother for night. He wasn't really all that. Be like, he's just like,
right.
That's backbiting. This is incredibly huge. You know how you repent for this? You can't even ask for forgiveness from God. You know what you have to do? You have to go up to that person and say, yo, my brother, I ain't gonna front. I was kind of talking all that smack about you. Can you forgive me? If you forgive me, Allah says, then I will forgive you.
Right.
That's how big this one sin is. And you know how much gossip, like the gossip culture and everything?
That's
like,
probably, that's a hard one. That's what I'm saying. Is that happening a lot? Do you see a lot of people going to
brother,
people?
I'll tell you right now, bro. I'll tell you right now one thing about people. It don't matter how much how much knowledge is out here. If people do not want to care to change themselves,
they won't.
Nothing about this thing will stay benevolent no matter what. God will protect God will protect what he does. They say for every one person to leave Islam, God will put 10 more people in his place. That's because it's organized. You do not get to choose how this thing runs. This thing runs with or without you. Easy. Like, Jesus will come back 100,000 billion %.
I mean, that's something both faiths agree on.
Yeah, we share that. And
which is a big one. That's a big thing to believe.
That's because we're the same.
That's a wild thing to believe. If you think it's a wild thing to believe,
I'm going to tell you right now, that's because the similarities between Christians and Muslims is such a way. We have an entire chapter dedicated to Mary. Jesus is mentioned the most, but there's a particular part of the in the Quran which I love so much that says the good Christians are your allies, yo. And when you study what that is, many means is good people, man. People who believe in God, people who believe in Jesus, you know what I mean? And the next thing you have to do after the fact is study the history. Bro, study why there was a difference between church and state. Study what King Louis and Emperor Constantine did. Study what they did. Study what happened with the pages, why they became certain places here, and so on and so forth. And it's like, in Quran, it's the same thing. Yo, go look at why certain people wanted to do this with the Quran, or why Mecca got destroyed and broken into like 3-4 times in history. Like, you got taken over. Go learn why. These are the other missing parts. So is there any last take you want to end this, want to give off before we get this off, my brother?
I think we talked about so much already.
I know, man.
Just I appreciate your presence.
My brother, I appreciate this, man. This was an honor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Man. I wanted to collaborate with you ever since I saw that video of the reeds, you know what I mean? Like, way back in the day. But I'm very thankful, like how I said on that last stream, that it was at least on a level like this and not through something like that, because I feel like at this point you are seeing the true version of myself. And I'm very thankful to see a very higher, true version of you. That makes me feel like really good to know, you know what I mean? That I can connect one of my peers like this. It's like amazing.
It's amazing. We'll do another one in South Africa.
Oh, inshallah, man.
You know
That'd
what
be
I'm
ill.
saying?
I'm a
Location,
brother.
video.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for this as always. You already know
Bless.
what it is, man.
One love.
Alhamdulillah, man.